Welcome to NLC News, I'm Middlecourt. Follow me on Twitter to unlock exclusive behind-the-scenes content. Nord Esports celebrated their qualification to EMEA Masters with their win over the Ruddy Sack, unaware that they're going to be knocked out in the quarterfinals by a random team from the Benelux. There is still debate as to which team from the Road of Legends will take down Nord in an incredibly depressing 3-1 loss, but given that two of their potential seeds would fulfill NLC residency requirements, it's likely we'll still be able to cope that one of our teams won, only to inevitably see them get 3-0'd by the Arabian League in the next round. However, Nord have had a much different view of the situation, with coach Just John stating, "The hard part is now over, the team that wins the upper bracket final is guaranteed to win the split, and the team that wins the NLC will easily win EMEA Masters." With that in mind, the Englishman has taken some well-earned time off to focus on his true passion, finding a way to destroy Superman. Verdant have done the one thing their fans didn't want them to do by giving them hope that they might actually be good. The UK-based organisation took down their opponent's Bulldog in convincing fashion last week, causing fans to worry that the league's KT roster stand-in might actually have put everything together to form a competitive roster that could place high at the end of the split. This has sparked even greater concerns that they may even be able to beat Los Ratones, an event which would shake the world of League of Legends, similar to Albus Nox Luna's Worlds run, Kaboom beating Alliance, and that time your silver friend laid against a diamond in Clash without getting completely blasted. Just for the avoidance of any doubts, Kaboom versus Alliance happened 11 years ago. If you can still remember that, you are old. An unexpected name is reportedly drawing interest from a number of teams in preparation for the summer split. Former England manager Sam Allardyce. Big Sam, as he is affectionately known by football fans, has significant experience in guiding struggling sides away from relegation in the Premier League, skills that the likes of Lightside, Chaos and DMG may need, as another poor performance from them in summer could put them at risk of dropping down to the second tier. Questions have arisen over Allardyce's suitability for the role, given his lack of League of Legends experience. However, some very high elo people on Reddit told me League of Legends coaches in Europe know nothing about the game, so I can't really see why that would be an issue. Big Sam also has extensive business contacts in China, which analysts could say he would use to lure Peng away from the Ruddy Sack, and who knows, maybe even get that warrior bloke involved for a few games. That's it from us here at NLC News. I've been Middlecott. I will now hold my breath until next week's episode.
Welcome back to Arozzi Northern League of Legends Championship Spring Split Playoffs online, and today will be the last one. Today will be the match that will send the last team towards finals, towards Leagues Disrupt. We already know that Nord are waiting at finals, but who are going to join them? Well, it could be either Ruddy or we have no idea, but what I do know is we need backup towards this show, and that's why I'm going to call in for backup Jamada and Salari. Welcome to the show. How are we doing for today?
Can't wait for the games to start. Can we skip everything and just go into the games, please? Because come on, we have a banger on our hands today.
I mean, I guess unless there's sponsor obligations, which there technically are, so I guess we have to go through it, unfortunately.
Okay.
We could otherwise just you know what, screw it, just straight back to the pause screen. Another 25 minutes until the game kicks off.
Initially start the game.
Yeah, I know people are coming into the show, so I'm sorry you're gonna walk in and the game's not already starting because we don't have time to waste. Well,
Okay,
to look into
I'm
this
sorry.
one, obviously, this is going to be the one that decides it all. And for those of you who just joined in or are not aware of what is happening, Los Ratones, after winning EMEA Masters, are on the lower bracket. So this has been one of those tales that are not usual. And this is what I love about it. When you look into the bracket itself in playoffs, what stands out to both of you aside from the LR business?
Well, I suppose the fact that Nord not necessarily ended up winning the series against Ruddysack, but the fact that Ruddysack threw that game 4 and didn't at least give us 5 games in that upper bracket to potentially give us a different, result there. So they're going to be still, of course, in Denmark in a little over a week's time. But, hey, could have been waiting in the finals for either a Nord, Verdant, or Los Ratones.
Solari, I know you've been really excited about this as well, and Spring Split has delivered a lot, so might as well look into what happened in the previous week and then we can talk about it, starting with Bulldog versus Verdant.
That hurt me a little bit as a fellow dog person. I was hoping for at least more games. I was hoping for 5 games and maybe slightly hoping for Bulldogs to win, but come on, Verdant showed up in this series so much. That was a very different team from what we saw before, both in terms of how they were drafting and in terms of how they were so proactive in the map, especially when it comes around objectives, how they were positioning themselves in a fight. That was the Verdant that was so much joy to look at in the series.
Yeah, and I was just a big fan of this final game Force draft, right?
Yes.
Throwing out the curveball, the Cassiopeia, it's not a champion that we see super frequently. It's a good matchup into the Rise, it's into 3 other melee champions. And then, the Ivern to top that off. A champion that is still very powerful, by the way, but seemingly only Noodle has piloted it. I didn't see anyone else pick up another game, and Shigenari, this man on your screen, finishes off that series with a pentakill, surrounded by what was a very difficult composition to kill.
We talked about it and we got to see it, the Nord versus the Ruddy Sack. I mean, high expectations from both teams from what they provided until now with the changes and the way they adapted. To me, Yankas has been a jungler to watch and rewatch with his decisions and what he brings into the table. I just think this Nord team is looking menacingly. And Chachi, I mean, it's Chachi.
Oh, they're looking scary, man. That's all I can tell you. Whoever is getting to the finals in the end has a very scary team sitting there and looking at them menacing and waiting for whoever is going to try to stand up to them. The top part of the map is very important for Nord. It is very strong. The bot lane has been absolutely up to the challenge. This is such a well-rounded team.
Yeah, I just think it's the fact that they seem very comfortable now with, No Ways champion pool in particular. It was like a very hotly-ish point of discourse surrounding Nord in winter, how they'd actually implement No Ways champions. Obviously, he also wasn't here in the seeding stage, right? So he's only been here since playoffs, but nonetheless, that's not really deterred Nord, systematically. Like you were saying, Solari, specifically Jankos, Vijachachi, they've really stepped up to help enable the rest of the map.
And I think regardless of how you look into this is going to be a beautiful storyline. For Nord, it could be like revenge of Winter Split if Los Ratones make it there. On the other side, if it's Ruddy, it's a rematch of what we've seen on the upper bracket. If Verdant goes there, I mean, we've seen this team constantly on NLC, so getting to see this team joining a live event would be beautiful. So regardless of what we get today, it's going to be a banger. But talking about the banger itself, let's look into predictions, because I know everybody's looking at Los Ratones by making this a 3-0.
Oh.
I'm not gonna talk. I know Solari has a belief.
No, sir, excuse me. You go 3-2 and you want to throw the stone at me?
I just want to get a little bit of a storyline on this. On my side, Jimad, I know you want to talk about something, and then I'll justify myself.
I mean,
do it.
I was gonna point my finger at you, but I will say I'm predicting 3-0 today. Normally, when it comes to Los Ratones series, unless it's a real, obvious prediction, I typically don't actually draw their series as perfect ones, and then they perfect the series and go 3-0. So I'm kind of hoping for a bit of a reverse here, going 3-0 now, and hoping that Verdant actually take a game off them to give us game 4. So that's a part of the curse here as to my prediction. But hey, I mean, look, Los Ratones have looked very spectacular. Like 3-0 is not outside of the realm of possibility. A lot of the onus will be on Verdant to, try and upset the apple cart.
This is either a 3-0 clean for Los Ratones, or it might be a 3-2, because from what I've seen from both teams, I do believe there's a point that Verdant can take away from LR, specifically within the map, and we'll talk about it later on, which is the primary part of Verdant. So if the weaker point or the struggling point at the moment for LR suffers, it's going to enable the strongest point for Verdant, and that might make a close series. So I really believe on a 3-0, but I have a feeling. I don't know, I just have a feeling that I wanted to win this. Also getting 5 games. Getting 5 games from Los Ratones is 5 games. So hey, a win is a win.
True.
Yeah, I would also kind of just tag on, I think, any amount of games that you can get before potentially going to a live finals is really important. We've seen historically how teams can ramp up through a lower bracket if they, drop out early. Los Ratones drop out early in comparison to expectations, right? So getting these additional games in the lower bracket, even if they might end up being a little bit more stressful, let's say, especially for the man who co-streams and has to watch it from the side, that bolding, it might end up being worth when it comes to the performance once you actually hit plan.
Yeah, I agree with you. And with that in mind, everybody can win by joining Leagues Disrupt in Copenhagen. Keep in mind that the tickets, this is going to be the last opportunity you see on broadcast where you can buy tickets to join us at this event. This event is not only NLC Finals, it will have a lot more. Duckling will be there because apparently almost every single Danish player is out. So, hey, we got a Danish individual there who's part of the show. We have to make it happen. We have to make it happen. Now, for both of you, I want to test you.
Oh, no. No.
Oh, yes.
No.
I love tests.
Oh, yes. Something is going to happen. Wait. Don't, not yet. We've been cooking, and we've made a new game. And I want chat to participate on this, because this is going to be a hard one. Everybody, welcome to the new game show.
This music.
This is Who Am I? GeoGuessr edition.
What?
Oh. Okay,
So,
now,
Hear me
small
out.
problem. Okay, go on.
I'll present
hearing
the
you out.
picture, and you have to tell me what is wrong with it. Something is wrong. And the first person raising their hands will let me know what it is.
I can very, very happily tell you that wall is way too short.
Yeah.
So you think the
it
wall
needs
is
to
too
be-
short?
It's too short, and also the brush, like the size of the brush at the top left is significantly too large. Those are the two things wrong here.
Okay, do you want to lock it in?
Yes, absolutely.
Nothing else.
Not that I can see in this frame. That wall needs to stretch. That wall needs to stretch to basically make blue buff like a little passage, and then that bush comes around. The inner part of that bush shouldn't be there either.
So let's see if that is the correct answer. Reveal the real Summoner's Rift, and that's the one on this picture. It is a lot bigger.
Okay.
The bush we're trying to compensate, but there you go. Like, now it's the big one. And this is the part of the map. Let's go for the second one. You both get a point. This is going to be a happy one. Something is wrong.
The amount of greenery at the Nashor pit, it's not there.
Yeah, that sounds right. There's just a little bit too much
It's too heavy.
foliage
Yeah.
There's too much
happy.
foliage going on. There's too much foliage going on. Yeah, on that top part of the.
So you believe we added extra?
The greenery.
uh,
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, 100%.
okay.
Yeah,
You want to lock
that's a
it
lot
in?
more rocky. Yeah, yeah. It could even also be on the bottom part as well. I think it also is on the bottom part. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Too much foliage on the Baron pit.
You know, aside from that, I want to highlight that you can see a helmet on the Baron pit. I don't know if you know what the helmet is. Jamada,
The
you've been
tiny
playing
one.
this for a long time. You should know the helmet.
Well, it does look like a. It actually looks a lot like the helmet that Kane wears when he's
No.
Rast, but I'm gonna say
What?
it's Pantheon's helmet because it kind
No,
of
no,
does look
this
a
is
little
the
bit like.
bro. This is the bro helmet. So every single time a soldier appears on a Riot cinematic, like from Demacian dies, like Vel'Koz when he disintegrates a soldier,
Right.
it's the bro
Yeah,
helmet.
that's right. That's right. It is. Yeah.
That's an Easter egg for everyone. So let's show the real picture. Is it the Baron pit? There you go.
Oh well. Okay.
See?
Rocks.
The rocks weren't there, so it kind of made the foliage look okay. It's like kind of a yes and a. It's like a 50-50.
I'll give you
I don't know how you
1.5
wanna attribute
points until
points.
now. Okay,
Okay.
it's a half point for both of you, so 1.5 points for both of you right now. Let's show the third picture. What is wrong with this one?
The what? What's happening in the blue buff pit? It's too
I'll
small, I
let you
can't
take that
see.
one, Solari.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
It's. I'm sorry, I'm old and blind. I'm not sure what that is, but that is not supposed to be there.
What, the gentleman, the blue buff?
Yeah,
Yeah. The
So
Anything
you think that's
else?
the only thing?
I'm just looking around.
It's the only thing that I can see that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Same. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll lock that in.
Yeah, that's 100% locked in. I don't see anything else wrong with this image. If there is something
This
wrong
is
with
a
this image,
rough
it's
one.
tiny. It's tiny.
This is
if
a
there is
rough
something
one
different.
because I think the image
Is the-
itself doesn't show you exactly
Should-
what it is. So
Should
Can-
the bush be at
okay,
the... Oh,
cameras off.
okay.
Okay.
Oh, this is additionally a little bit more helpful.
Uh,
I feel
There's
like
supposed to be
the-
a bush there in the very
I feel like-
bottom.
Yeah, I feel
A
like
wall and a
actually
bush.
that wall should be a little bit higher up. I think our cams might have been covering that actually.
Yeah.
Which
think that-
rock?
At the very bottom, there's like a small fraction of the rock and the bush. I'm pretty sure that wall's supposed to be slightly higher up to again like make that kind of a bit more of a choke.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there
Let's
should
see if
be a
that's the
bush
correct
there.
one. And the reveal is
Oh.
You need a bush and exit. Yeah. No, it's totally normal. It's the blue buff. It's,
Why are you
I don't know what you're
gaslighting
talking-
us?
I have no idea. I just presented the ideas for the game. I didn't do the pictures. So yeah.
Innocent
Yeah,
man.
I'm just saying. Let's go. We have another one, I believe.
Ooh,
Where is the
okay.
turret? Huh?
Okay. So
Where is
yeah,
the
the turret's gone. Yep, that's.
That is Bow's
Fantastic
dream
catch.
top lane.
I feel like there's supposed to be something's off.
You got
about
me. You got me, Saladi.
something's off about the top left curve of this wall.
Ooh.
I actually
like it.
don't. I don't think the log is supposed to be there.
Huh?
But this could also be like different concept art, like coming into like last year.
Uh-huh.
I play a lot of top lane, and I don't think that log's there. If it
The
is,
log?
it's nowhere near as big. Yeah, that
On
tree,
the
like the
top
trunk, the
left
roots,
side
Maybe
Yes.
just
of the
never paid
rock?
attention.
of the rock. Yeah,
Yeah, the top lane, the Jamada.
I don't think it's there like that. I don't think it's that thick.
So the answer is turret and log.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
it's
reveal.
just a turret.
It's only the turret. That log has been there.
Okay.
Yeah, the turret. Yeah. So turret, it's 2.5 points at the maximum. You need 3 points to pass the exam, by the way.
It's an exam?
Oh.
It is
Yeah,
an
yeah,
exam.
yeah.
If you fail, your summoner's account will be revoked. You won't be able to play.
Good.
Especially top side, Jamada.
Uh-oh.
I do believe we have a final one.
Okay.
I think, yeah, this is the final one.
Well, something's wrong with that rock on the left-hand side, but I just can't put my finger on
Yeah.
it. I don't know what's supposed to be there, but it's not supposed to look like that. I can say that. Also, top right, the wall has been
Yeah.
shortened. Top right, the wall's been shortened.
It's
And there's
supposed to be
something wrong with the
longer.
rock
Cap.
on the left.
Next to the
Yeah,
wolf
yeah,
cap.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
okay?
Yeah. That's been shortened.
So we're going to the top right side. That wall should be longer. Is that it?
Yeah, it should almost touch the little path underneath it.
Okay, so that is the lock in. Nothing else.
Something's missing from the back of the wolf pit. I don't know what's supposed to be on there, but something's definitely missing from the back of the wolf pit.
Like
I think there's actually.
gravestone?
I think there's a. Yeah, it's either like a gravestone or there's like a real tiny, like shattered off bit of rock that like just attributes to the terrain curve of that. And then yeah, that bottom left big rock. There's like it's strange.
wrong.
Something's not right.
Yeah.
it's
This
wrong.
is a
I don't know what it
complicated
is.
game, isn't it? It makes
It
you
is.
question everything within the rift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those
So,
are my three
final
guesses.
answers. Final answer. Okay, give me one.
Bottom
Which
left,
is the
back of the wolf pit, right hand side, top right wall, not being long enough.
Salati? Do you want to lock in it as well?
Yeah.
The correct answer is you're gonna be shocked. The trees were missing.
Oh, that's what it is. The trees were gone. Yeah.
Oh, that's evil.
That's evil.
I
That's
love it.
really
Archer,
evil.
I can't believe in the year 2025 you'd cut down trees so
I brought it
belligerent.
back.
That's
So
not very verdant of
belligerently.
you.
Magic.
Not very verdant of you. Very anti-verdant of you, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We brought it
yeah.
back. We brought it back.
We've got our eyes on you.
Yeah.
Now, I'll give you half a point on this as well. So 3 points in total for 6 questions. I think it's a pass. I hope you guys at home had fun playing this as well. And I hope you passed as well. Probably you didn't. So yeah, you let me know. Now! Oh, it got serious. Yeah, it got serious because we're finally going to be able to talk about these two teams. One of them will move into Leagues Disrupt, which means they'll be playing on stage. They will have an opportunity to win NLC Spring Split. And not only that, be capable of moving to EMEA Masters and joining North at the quest of winning versus Europe. We are the reigning we are the reigning kings, so we have the title for now. It's really important to get the best of the best. It's Los Ratones versus Verdant. So yeah, now we get like both screens, like both teams in front of us. So we can. Oh, no, not yet. My bad,
Someone
my
doesn't know.
bad.
Someone doesn't know they're on a show.
Wow.
Yes, I was looking into the game show still. Now we need to talk about, before we talk about the teams. Yeah, my bad. I apologize. I'm kind of sick. My bad. So the idea is a big patch was just delivered into the game itself. And it means that AP items got changed heavily. Jamada, you brought this up specifically because you think this is really important to talk about. So let's discuss all of us.
Yeah. So
You start.
25.10 did bring, champion balance changes as well, but I really want to highlight specifically these couple of AP items, and there are more than just what you're seeing on the screen, but specifically these because I think these were the items buffed the most on this patch. I'll start with Lich Bane at the very top, slightly less AP, but at the cost of 300 gold, I think is incredible for a majority of the users because most of the play patterns of these Lich Bane users just revolve around having the item. So getting it sooner, they don't care about that slight loss of 15 AP. It's a really worth trade-off. Even in the flat gold to AP actually lost, it's actually directly equal. The 15 gold equals 300 gold cost. The Horizon Focus lost that weird part of its damage amp kit, part of its kit, in order to gain a lot of extra AP for only 200 more gold. So it's actually a lot more stat efficient now, gold efficient. Seraph's Embrace is the one I'm a little bit up and down about. I can't quite make my mind up. I think for champions that go Roa and Seraph's Embrace, this is likely almost always going to end up being a buff.
Yeah.
But for champions that only really sit on Seraph's by itself, it's likely contextually going to end up being a nerf. Though, again, the max mana against current versus, that bonus just flat 200, that's really all of the trade-off. And then the talk of the town, where everyone is really hyped about, it's Rocket Belt getting, the additional 10 AP, a little bit of extra haste, and only at the cost really of 50 extra gold for a little bit loss of health. This item seems really, really strong, and its users are seemingly significantly better as well. Better off, rather. So keep your eyes out for AP champions, because we could actually see a slight buff up in the number of them that you see, not just specifically in the mid lane, but potentially in the jungle, things like Echo, Diana, etc. These champions might show up just a touch more on this patch when the space is right for it.
Oh, you just got me excited for a Diana jungle, Jamada. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I really hope so. Also, maybe a little bit more Akalis on the mid lane as well. And speaking of jungle, by the way, there was a tiny, like, there weren't really many changes to champions in this patch, but a tiny change to Naafiri, which might be a big change for Noodle, because he's a very big Naafiri player. But Naafiri now has much slower jungle clear as her first clear. So it might be the day where we don't see Noodle pick Naafiri, or maybe it's going to change his playstyle a bit.
Ooh, that would be big, because he needs that champion. So we can finally talk about the teams right now after the patch breakdown. So, you know, the AP at the moment is a little bit weird, different, and actually a little bit better for everybody, at least economy-wise. So let's talk about both teams. Verdant versus Los Ratones is going to be the match for the telling if Los Ratones are able to go into a live event yet again, or if it's time for Verdant to rise into the occasion. Both teams bring in a lot of manpower. But who's going to thrive on this one? It's going to be a best of 5, and whoever loses this will be promoted to spectator. Whoever wins moves into Leagues Disrupt. I know, it's rough. So let's start with the team from Nature. There we go. Verdant joining in. I don't think a lot of people believed in them. Am I wrong?
I mean, I think most people would have had them on the top half, right? It's just about whether or not you believe they'll break into top 4. And I feel like they're on track for expectations right now. This would be the real expectation breaker, right? Everyone had Los Ratones, Nord, Radisak in the top 3 in most configurations. It was about whether or not this lineup would be stronger than Bulldog. They proved that they were. And now it's about, you know, in this case now, kind of doing it almost in what most people would call the backwards order of the Los Ratones series before heading off to Denmark.
So the team that everybody was expecting, there you go. Los Ratones coming in with this firepower of a roster. And they've met their match, obviously, versus Nord. We talked about it previously, but I think Janko said it extremely well. It was not only about Nord winning, it was also about LR not having a good day. And with the way the split is built, on this scenario, if you lose, you go instantly to the lower bracket. So that can be a little bit complicated. So they can hit this team, and we've seen this before, especially through the champion select, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the hilarious game 1.
Yes.
That was the draft that you're seeing on your screen right now.
The Sigma
we've
draft.
been memeing about
Yes.
We've been memeing about it all year. You know, what if in a situation you've got a player with a very niche champion pool and you take out all of their champs in game 1, you just tank game 1 and see how things go. Venom Crest, the bad men, they went ahead and did it. 4 Baus champions, plus, you know, some people even say like he plays Jin top player. He would have played it in comp, but, you know, still very hilarious that it landed on Jin 2. To this fantastic game plan surrounding just trying to shut down Crowny and Reckless in the bottom side to give, you know, a lot more freedom and space. Unfortunately, the execution on some of these plays and dives didn't always go the way that they wanted them to.
That is still, however, you know what, there were many talks, but only one team managed to pull this so far, and that is, of course, kudos to Venom Crest. It was only one game though, so the talks were, okay, they throw game 1, right? They take away a lot of champions from Baus, and then after that it should get a little bit easier for them. But first of all, Los Ratones still managed to pick out a pretty decent composition, especially with a Swain on the mid lane for Nemesis, of course, not biased by the way. But after that, the games 2 and 3 are supposed to be the games where Venom Crest finally picks something they can play with and win versus Los Ratones, and that never happened. Even though they pretty much lost by default game number 1, they weren't able to pick up 2 more games to win the series.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny. I wouldn't even necessarily say that, you know, by default, Venom Crest were going to lose this game 1. I think a lot of, you know, the shortcomings of this game were actually surrounding just mechanical play, right?
Yeah.
Gooby managed to push out Velier and have a relatively solid jungle lead, but it was really these follow-up plays afterwards around the top side, which then set the momentum back in Los Ratones' favor, right? A couple of shutdowns were picked up. Gold went over to Crowny despite him being, you know, the target focus. You can actually see just before that replay finished up, even with all of the focus, Crowny and his opponent were still 1-on-1, right? Kobe were both dead even in gold. So despite the strategy being honestly sound, I think it came down to the execution. And we bring up this creativity because Verdant, one of the only other teams who have been mildly creative in their own right as well.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
besides,
this.
when you look into Bulldog and Verdant,
Yeah.
yes, Solari, because this is also extremely original.
Yeah, you gotta remember this is game number 4. There are already so many picks not available for both the teams, and that is why you can see Bulldog going into a team composition that is everybody wants to be doing completely different things in it, while Verdant still managed first of all to find some synergy between everybody and still, as they do lately, draft around what the team is drafting against them. But second of all, how often, as Jamar has already said, do you see players picking up Ivern and Cassiopeia, even if you go deep into game number 4, game number 5, and you really dig into a champion pools? Like, you gotta remember that Senkax, Shiganari, Noodle, all 3 of them have insanely big champion pools. And then, after they draft so nicely, they are able to translate it into the games. Honestly, in this series with Bulldog, Bulldog just had no clue what to do with Verdant so many times. Like in game number 1 that you see right now, they did not know what to do in team fights the moment Terran would join them, because how do you kill an unkillable thing on the enemy team? And then in the 2 games that happened afterwards, it was always Bulldog missing something that Verdant were doing. Even here, this was game number 3, I believe. Look at the minimap. Look at what's happening right now. They're fighting, they're being forced to fight at the Dragon, while there is Jax Terran just nonchalantly finishing the game because nobody's able to stop him.
Yeah, I mean, if there is one thing I will say about Verdant, they do definitely have their off games where it feels like they end up being a little bit wonky. Their confidence is shaken by a play or two. They are one of the few teams that does like to keep a fair bit of composure when, pressure is high in a game. And this is just one of those examples where they understand they could just send Tyrant top, mid, to end the game, and they don't really compromise that play very highly at all. And yeah, coming back into this final game, the reason why we're talking about this game 4, we brought up that draft, is that Verdant are, the only team really out of the remaining, outside of, basically no way weird champion pool things that everyone is kind of aware of, that are willing to pick the occasional, a little bit more out there champion that people aren't playing, like the Ivern. Nefiri, obviously, moderately meta. It's been a very weird priority here in the NLC, but Noodle has been arguably the most proficient player on the champion, right? It's really a toss-up between Chankos and Velia on that champ. And thank you. I love that we brought up the heat map here, because with all of that pressure, it's not just, these air quotes scaling-ish picks. Nefiri's obviously got a little bit of early game prio about how she functions. It's the bottom side of the map that you're seeing on the Zinzan Pantheon, where he's really loving this focus to try and enable Shiganari.
And what is important, it's not just any bot lane focus. This is before 15th minute of the game, so this is while the laning phase is still happening. And all of those dots, the bigger they are, the more action for Noodle is happening on the map in these places, obviously. And you can see all of the action is always happening around the lanes, almost never in the jungle, and most often, of course, around this bot lane, because they know that Shiganari is a very important player for the team, the one who just got Penta in the previous series and has been performing so damn well, and they know that they need to accelerate him, and Noodle is always there to provide that.
And you talked about this, Shimada, that even with that idea that Venom Crest brought versus LR with that champion select, and this is why I think we're tackling this, because I think Verdant is a team that can take that idea on a healthy way and more original, like, oh, you built up the path, now it's time for us to walk, Venom Crest. Thank you for that. And if they give that attention towards the bot side, if they somehow are able to get Crown and even Reckless behind and enable Shiganari, as you can see, this could be a winning condition. I think like the stats you brought up are amazing, both of you, because of the death shared and the damage shared. They work hand in hand.
So it doesn't actually show on the graph, but for clarity, death share, what that stat means is quite literally in the name. It is the share of deaths on his team. He's got 19.2%, which is the highest of any AD carry remaining in playoffs, whilst having the highest TPM of any AD carry with that kind of stat. So what that means contextually is he's getting in positions where he has to dish out damage, where he gets to dish out damage, but he's towing a line, and sometimes he's going over it, right? So Verdant rather, do need to try their best at times, maybe not necessarily to even rein him in, but make sure that he can do it a little bit more safely, right? Play around him in those mid-game skirmishes, team fights, ensure that, he gets to play a free front to back, things like that, so that Shiganari can find moments where he can dash forward, get into the back line, as easily as he'd like, and actually take down some high-value targets.
Yeah, I agree 100%. He's like the Iron Man of the team. He just goes in and is like, I'm gonna do my business. If I die doing it, well, we win regardless. But now facing Los Ratones, that's not gonna be easy. And we walk into the Champion Select instantly, even before the time. This is beautiful. They really want to dish out the damage within the rifts. A lot of you told us, like, let's start the game. Jace is out. Azir is out as well. What is going to be the main focus? Because the patch has changed, so maybe the bans adapt as well.
So you still gotta remember that for Verdant, for example, it is hard to find those very direct bans into them, because whoever you want to ban against, they're going to have so many more champions that they will have no problem rotating into. But I still love the idea of removing Jace, for example, one of the very big champions for Terran, and the champion that is problematic for Baus on the top lane. Most likely Los Ratones would like to get rid of any lane bullies from the top lane just to make sure that Baus doesn't suffer. Okay, 2 out of 3, that's still nice, and then removing Victor from the mid lane as well, pretty much with a similar idea, especially now that the Azir for Nemesis, his most played champion display, is not available anymore.
Yeah, there are, I mean, technically 3, but I'll only bring up 2 champions that I'd like to highlight. We obviously mentioned the AP changes on this patch, but 2 champions that got relatively significant buffs and changes were Senna and Smolder. And those are 2 champions which I feel are pretty synonymous with Crowny and Reckless's not just name, but also playstyle. So I'm kind of wondering what the priority will be around those champions for Los Ratones and how they're going to handle those both. Senna obviously got more AD carry focus buffs with a slight support nerf, whereas Smolder just got flatly a bit more buff than Cho'Gath was the third one, who's also been incredibly overpowered with the Emax.
We got to see it today. Yeah.
Yeah, with all of those buffs,
with T1,
still Varus. Yeah, with T1. The more things change, the more things stay the same. Still getting at that Varus first pick. And we will kind of wait with bated breath to see if this is going to be something like a Zinzao and an Ezreal here for Verdant, as a lot of these power picks still up and available with the way that some of those bans flew.
Okay, almost 1 out of 2. Zinzao most likely for Noodle, one of, again, his most preferred champions in the jungle. I like the Talia there for Senkax. Last times we talked about Verdant having Talia, it was mostly a pick, either a counter pick into the enemy or a pick away from the enemy's mid laner. But here I like it just by default, because Senkax is a player who is very responsive to what is happening on the map, especially on the bot side of the map or around the big objectives. And Talia allows him to relocate there very easily to join the fight.
Giving that priority to the duo. Yeah. Oof.
Okay.
So far squishy, but a lot of damage. There you go.
Yeah.
No longer
Squishy, you say.
I actually quite like this, because now, as Los Ratones, right, you're putting faith in Nemesis champion pool, which I think is never a bad thing to do. And Verdant kind of have to pick between a solid, matchup into Sion, which there are very few of on the patch. You could go double AP solo lanes, go the Gwen. You could maybe go the Aatrox as Tyron. That would be like the comfort. But then you obviously lose out on the bot lane matchups, things like Ezreal for range. But if you go Ezreal, then you don't have a tank killer. You go Jhin, you also kind of don't have a tank killer either.
Yeah.
But it is going to be a little bit more about setup. So what now Verdant really need is, additional engage out of Obstinatus, which I'm sure he's not going to struggle to find with the way the bans currently lie. And then, something that's really going to change the game here from Tyron on, R4, I would expect.
How do you kill Sion?
In that sense, do you need to kill Sion? Or maybe there is a world in which Verdant could use Tyron and he's love to be on the side lanes, or just a little bit away from the team, helping them out somewhere else on the map. And to give him a very good split pusher, it's just an idea, but we've seen Tyron already pull these ideas out, just having a lot of pressure somewhere on the other side of the map compared to where the rest of the team is, and that's maybe forcing Baus to also not be able to join the team.
We'll see. I mean, they've removed away Gwen, Los Ratones, so they kind of acknowledge that that would be one of the more frustrating champs to deal with.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's just Aatrox as that second ban. I feel like those are the 2 highest priority picks you could have gone for Los Ratones, and that's just going to be the follow-up. So, I mean, at what point, like, what direction do you really want to go? Like, do you want to blind support into Reckless, who's got, an abundance of, enchanter counter picks? Do you want to try and save top lane for a game-changing pick? Because, I mean, I feel like Cho'Gath, it's buffed, it's stronger on this patch. It's obviously a very good answer directly into Sion.
Sion, yeah.
You're going to need, effectively, just like a go-bar now, Obstinatus, and it's going to need to be long range. It can't be Rell, it can't be Alistar, it has to be Nautilus, or it has to be the Leona. Otherwise, I think they're really going to struggle to get fights going the way that they'd like to.
This is looking problematic in terms of what
Yeah.
it can do to deal with a lot at the moment, and they're going to wrap it up with any sort of support, maybe even a Rakan to just go in and be happy and then fall back if needed. Ooh, the timer went down. Okay. Yeah,
it's
another
already
bulky front line. Jin is not going to have a fun time on this match.
No, he's not. I feel like nobody on Verdant is going to have a fun time in this matchup whatsoever. This is probably going to be the Nautilus for Obstinatis. It's hard to see what else they're going into. But for now, Los Ratones are raising up much more problems for Verdant, because how do you cut through their front lane? How do you deal with their engage apart from your Tilly and Xin Zhao? What exactly do you do with the Cho'Gath on the map? So many question marks here with this draft for Verdant. And usually Verdant are the team that we praise for their drafts.
True. I mean, I feel like a lot of this is going to start through the mid jungle. For
Yeah.
Syncox and Noodle. That's really where they're going to have to make a lot of their bread. There's Nautilus that felt pretty telegraphed in all fairness. And yeah, I would suspect that they're going to have to really try and bring it to Velia and Nemesis. Maybe they've got an early game pathing plan ready. Noodle has been one of the junglers of all time in the NLC who's been willing to do really weird stuff like flash over walls to go from buff to buff. So
Actually,
let's wait and see if that's what they've got going on, because for Los Ratones, it's very standard front to back, a little bit of pick, non-committal engage. Life feels really good. I feel like the onus is really on Verdant to try and get things going so that Syncox can be unlocked on the map and ready to go.
As it stands, final word just to get your prediction on who do you think is going to take game one. Solari, you start. I know you have a saying right now.
it has to be Los Ratones in this game. I am not seeing how Verdant are winning this game unless they're set super ahead in the early game, which is going to fully fall onto Noodle's shoulders, and that is a lot to ask from one person. So I think for Los Ratones, the win condition is just easier.
I like Verdant's lane matchups. I actually do have faith in the one-to-one champions, but I'm just concerned about how they're actually going to be able to get a snowball going to then put them in a positive position, right? In team fights to get prio, to be on objective first. That's my concern. I think Los Ratones have a much more easier time getting around the map and securing objectives in that regard.
Keep in mind, this is going to be the last matchup before we go into live in Copenhagen. So whoever wins, we'll move up into Leagues Disrupt. To stop this one, let's toss it to the casters. It's Initialize and Triple Link.
Thank you very much, Archer. We are now back here. I'm here with Trouble Link. The boys are back in town. It's such a pleasure to be back on cast with you. Every time I see you, I swear your background gets more and more full. That's the answer. Really, what you can't see is offside.
And what you can't hear
She's
is
done it
me.
again!
It's
She's
classic.
done it again!
It's classic. Okay, I just said that I'll just spread them out and they took more space, but that's bad. Let's move into game number one. Here we go.
It's tradition. All right, well, coming into game one, Georgia. I was chatting about your background. We've got the meme out of the way. What is your take on what's going on in the Rift today? We've got ourselves Nefiri Ari for LR. That could get pretty spicy. On the other side, I'm looking at a lot of CC combos from Verdant, but maybe not necessarily the most consistent damage.
Yeah, I feel like for Los Ratones right here, they've got a pretty much a very well-rounded composition, I want to say. I wanted to see if Carney was going to lock into the game with Comet, Halo Blades, or Lethal Temple that we're seeing more of the on-hit build onto Varus. Like, he's playing for pure lane domination, playing against the Jhin lane, right? What I'm very worried about Verdant is that they don't necessarily have a designated tank killer. So if Baus really does snowball, and he really has changed and builds any remnants of tank items, it'd be really hard to kill him. And looking at the longsword, I take everything I said back.
Yeah, of course, he's going damage early. It is Baus on the Scion. Is he ever really going tank on that champion? Really?
Man, hell no. It's gonna be action mark first, a second item or something.
I'm fairly certain someone would have to come and restrain him and buy his items for him for that to happen.
You know what? There were a couple of conversations with Deirdre where he's like, he's in draft and he's like, you're going tank, right, Bowsy? You're going tank here, right? And he's like, yeah, boss, I'm going tank. And he just goes in game and builds like AP or
It's not.
on the champion, right? It's not happening. You can't tame him.
It's the way he is. And at that point, I suppose there has to be a bit of a question about where we're at here. Because obviously Los Ratones are in fact in the lower bracket. Not where we were necessarily expecting them to be. Necessarily, I'll take that out, we were not expecting them to be in the lower bracket. They are the EMEA Masters champions. They came in with this incredible roster that did so well in spring, did so well for the regular season, and then dropped down to Nord as they kind of got wrecked. Not to put too fine a point on it. It was a really good series from them, as absolutely right. Story time will have to wait. Shigenari flashing away, but Reckless waiting here as down comes the level 3 Neferi. Hot dogs for dinner. And Shigenari is feeling a little overfull and will die for first blood to the dog in the jungle.
Right, stories aside as well, we're going to catch them because they're actually very important here for the rest of the game, for the rest of the tournament as well, and the lives of both of these teams. Valia with a very nice invade, takes the blue buff, takes the Gromp, and then wraps around. Shigenari and Obstinats have absolutely no idea, because even though there were deep woods, Valia managed to actually wrap around them as Mouse will die once, for now, on the top side of the map. The solo bolo coming through from Tayron. Now, Noodle is going to respond with...
oh, boy.
Is he going to do it? Okay.
Phew. Would have been a little bold with everyone knowing where he was.
I saw him flash the pit so many times just to get where he needs to be on time. I wasn't even going to be surprised if he did that just to get the Skull Crab.
He tried very hard to drag Veneer through a decent playoffs run towards the end of that split. Things like his Xin Zhao, despite the historical win rate on it for him not being fantastic, his eye test has always been pretty great, trying even when teams have struggled a little bit. He's always had a way of making that champion look very dangerous. And right now, I know we've had this conversation before, Xin Zhao feels like probably the most potent early game skirmisher coming out of the jungle.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Looking about skirmish, I think the skirmish is up top lane. Noodle tried to take the double scuttle coming through from Noodle right here. House, that's a flash.
To try and punish this, eviscerating forward is Velia. Tayron going to be a little late. Nemesis flashing over here. Forced to flash out of the Xin Zhao. Charm onto Tayron, who is going to get hit up by that rupture as Nemesis for a second or two, but they can keep on hunting. Call of the Pack buys a bit of time. Another eviscerate, and the Dark and Daggers keep on going through. And Nemesis gets another loss, returns off to the races. At least Verdant did get a kill somewhere else, of course, because Tayron managed to pick up Bowsy.
Yeah, I feel like Tayron got a little bit baited right there. He had no mana on the Cho'Gath. He walked up. Noodle could have very easily just flashed the wall, which actually he did, and he was safe in the tower. But Tayron didn't actually have to overextend right there. Very nice charm, of course, landed from Nemesis. And just to capitalize onto the overstep right there from the Cho'Gath. And I just want to reiterate and remind everyone, because you started a very, very lovely story right there. Los Ratones were never imagined to be on that lower bracket and fighting for their lives right now. However, right here, with one win, they solidify themselves in the LAN in Copenhagen on that lower bracket final versus Radisak that's waiting for them, right? Or for Verdant. And for Verdant, it's an even bigger feat if they manage to do that, like beating Los Ratones. Can we remind everyone that they both started in the same group, and we thought Verdant was going to be that one team that really does challenge Los Ratones. In the best of ones, it didn't seem to be the case. Now, this is the actual real challenge. You have at least 3 games to prove that you can.
It's not exactly like that. Roster doesn't have its own amount of experience. Shigenari, of course, been to things like Worlds and stuff with the likes of, I want to say it was Gambit way back in the day. And of course, the likes of Senkux was at one point on teams like Splice, which you may remember from over in NLC. That lineage now has become more of a star koi over the years in the LEC, but there's some players who certainly had a fair amount of experience there as well. And Noodle, NLC vet, will be looking to help push Verdant that little step further. But of course, to get there, they have to do a little bit of giant slaying. Most Ratones are looking to make sure they recover well from that upper bracket humbling they ended up receiving. Hence the run of affairs as Bowsy gets ignited, and that's just a kill to Shigenari. Going down again, it is the Bows way on the side, but all the same, getting a kill onto the Jhin early, got to feel pretty good for Verdant nonetheless.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. If that was a Jhin getting a kill onto Sion, I'm like, yeah, okay, but Sion is really scaling. He's just gonna have, like, his Frozen Hearts, his Randuins, like anything with armor, just point click it in the shop and buy it on Sion, and you'll be fine against Xin Zhao and against the Jhin. However, right here, of course, Baus is going more with a bruiser type of build, which means that the Jhin will be able to hurt him much easier than if he was a full tank Sion. So getting Shigenari early game kills is going to be very, very beneficial for the side of Verdant.
Big time, especially as we're looking probably to go towards that Collector Infinity Edge build, which has been the Jhin staple right now. If you want to start hurting those champions with a little bit more HP, you want to get to that third item where things like the Lord Dominic's Regards can come on in. But hey, welcome to the life of an AD carry. you do need a few items to your name. Still, early game as it stands, pretty even so far. A couple hundred gold in the advantage of Lost Returns, but that's about it. I'll note they also managed to take the early dragon. Velia did that at the level 4, so they've got that going for them too.
Yeah, and there's a 3 versus 3 forming over on the top side as Crowny.
Nice. The bait comes on through. Crowny a little bit greedy with the passing. Trying to throw down the curtain call and don't hit the shots they were aiming for. In comes Bowser's Senkux. Flashes out of the way of the unstoppable onslaught, who turns up topside, and some summoners blown, but no one dies.
That's actually pretty huge, though. Crowny is the core damage right now for the side of Los Ratones, so losing both summoners right before the Void Grubs fight right here could end up being very deadly for the Varus. But as you can see right here, Los Ratones is sort of sandwiching in towards the Void Grubs. The TP is going to come through, though, from Tayron.
Hook lands. That's Bowser getting rooted by the Deadly First. Reckless trying to buy some time. Headbutts Obstinatus into the middle of the pit. Tayron now teleports in himself. Looking to play this out. Can start to play around the Grubs. Maybe he can smite one away. Looking to get some kills back. They've already nabbed one of the Grubs. Have lost returns. They get the feats of warfare as well. As, of course, Crowny picks up a kill. Charm into the knock-up. Into the dead Cho'Gath. Not looking so much like a Void Monster as a tutorial boss.
Yeah, I feel like Los Ratones were very, very prepared for these Void Grubs, because even though the Varus lost both summoners, no one was actually really ready to fight this. They've actually instantly sandwiched themselves. Thank you very much for the pose right there to show that as well. Between all 5 Los Ratones members, and then the TP came through from Tayron, didn't have much mana, so Vedden a little bit dizzy about that neutral objective, and Los Ratones absolutely capitalized on that. About 1,500 gold lead right here. And majority of the lead is kind of like spread throughout the map as we're looking at the replay one more time. Oh, no. Jokes. Oh, no. We're back. Okay.
Let's have a look.
Replay. Okay, so Obstinatus is a little bit too deep. And as you can see, Shikanari is sort of zoned up on the top side, trying to keep Crowny out. And Obstinatus is too far in, but there's not a lot of damage. Tayron too easy, not a lot of mana. Sentek stuck on the bot side of the map. So you can see that Verdun was pretty much spread too thin around that river. And Los Ratones just capitalized on the one member that was overextended.
And really good positioning from Reckless on that Alistair. Gets the headbutt back, puts his Obstinatus in an awful position. Baus now is somehow very deep, and I suspect he will be going down here. Has got a flash. Where is he going? Of course he's going to the wave. He's heading for the farm. He'll get knocked up, but he'll be able to clear out the wave at the very least. Baus will never change, will he? Gets feasted, so there's some stacks in the inventory of Tayron, but there you go.
I just want to reiterate to everyone, he flashed with this. He deliberately flashed to get those creeps. It's fair enough. It's fair enough. You know what? I do see some defensive MR in his inventory.
And a Barbies.
I mean, it looks like he's changed. That looks like a defensive first item.
I bought Swifties. That's not defensive boots. He's not really changed, has he? I mean, it's only partly changed.
Where'd the Barbies go?
That's a good question. Did he sell it? Did he sell it for Swifties? He sold Barbies. I think he was dead at the time, so I'm assuming he was just debating what item to buy. He didn't just buy it and then sell it. So in fairness, I suspect.
What? When you're faster, you can get to the wave faster as well. I mean, I think Swifties are super high value right here because both Jhin and Talia play from a pretty high distance as well. So they do help you somehow close down that distance. At the end of the day, Baus is going to be more of a nuisance in the team fights for Verdun than anything else. Trying to protect pretty much anyone between Crowny and the in-betweens, which is like Velia and Nemesis trying to make plays as a mid-jungle duo.
Yeah. Well, we'll need to keep our eyes on that one, especially as managing to stay even somehow, just slightly ahead of this Cho'Gath. In spite of the usually hyper-aggressive play pattern we see from him, a little Rupture comes on through in the Broken Covenant Cho'Gath, which still is one of the coolest skins in the league. I just love the city he creates when he presses Q. It's pretty awesome. Fight around the dragon, though, so musing about skins may have to wait a second as everyone's trying to fight for Vision in the banana bush. Velia will go untargetable for a second. Headbutt pulverized from Reckless! Brings down Obstinatus, has it a heat-seeking engage on that other support. Noodle gonna try and find a moment, does not get to Crescent anywhere near in time to keep himself alive. A knock up onto the Cho'Gath, and again, the monster falls. Lost Returns have been clinical in these team fights.
Yeah, I feel Verdant are really weighing the situation when they're trying to fight for those neutral objectives. There's actually no wards, there's no vision, there's no formation for them to try and play those fights. Usually when you're looking at Talias, you're looking at a wall coming in first, you isolate some members, then you kill some others. It's more about the zoning that you can create with things like the Jhin ult and the Talia. But right here, it's just Obstinatus trying to clear the way to get inside this river. The waves have been pushed. Elara there first, and they just engage with him as a 5-man.
He had a lot of value there, for sure, and then they managed to turn this around. Nemesis already got so many stacks, and Noodle knows there's no way out, so tries to get something. But look where the carries are. Senkux and Shiganari are miles away, not able to get involved, and Reckless, again, with that snap engage. He has been so good at splitting these team fights up, and this is not an engaged champion. That's not an enchanter. It's not something that's kind of backline, which we've often said has been his staple, and the engage options have often not really been there in the draft. Proving us all a little wrong here with a fantastic Alistair game so far.
Absolutely. I think everyone is having a pretty good game from the set of Los Ratones. 2-0-5, Relia as well. Great early game invade that gave them that first kill onto Shiganari. And I feel like we haven't necessarily mentioned it too much because it hasn't blown up that much, but we felt like Shiganari and Crowny were going to be the two big carries, respectively, for their teams, particularly for the side of Burden. I feel like Shiganari had to lift a lot of weight in the damage department for them. He has more than 30% of his team's entire damage distribution, and that's throughout the entirety of playoffs, right? So it's within series that they've dominated and within series that were hard for them. Obstinatus right here. Oh, in No Man's Land. Oh, boy. Well.
Sometimes this happens on Nautiluses when you start falling behind. You end up dying as you attempt to face it because you're not really that tanky unless you get Aftershock. We'll try and turn this around onto Velia, who reactivates his Call of the Pack. Sorry, is it Call of the Pack? That's the W. What's the R button again? I'm having a moment. It'll have to wait as I muse on ability names later. Nemesis in a 1v1 with Senkux. Noodle coming down as well, but Nemesis just gets to press R a few times and run away.
Yeah, Noodle is around. Does have one more dash. He wants to use that. He'll get the charm. He should be able to walk out here.
Managing the cooldown super well. That's really well managed. And it's Hound's Pursuit is the R button. Took me a second to remember as Noodle doesn't get hit by the second charm, but does get to interrupt Nemesis reset just a little. Of course, there's Hex Gates going on, so I don't know how quickly and how long they can stick around. Velia are at 2/3 HP, but again, with the Dark and Dite, going to be a healing. Charm onto Obstinatus. As Nemesis has decided to stick around, Reckless and Crowny now here, as is Senkux. They really want to potentially contest this. Noodle's gone very deep, presses the R button, in comes the depth charge, but it was a little bold to throw down those ultimates. Flash for the charm, flash in response, keeps at least Obstinatus alive. TPs, I hear, beginning to fly on down towards his pulse. Obstinatus took the wall! Over the wall they're going regardless, but it's a double pulverized knockup. They'll bring down Crowny. Senkux still firing over the wall. Tayron is here as well, and I think Los Ratones may have bitten off a little more than they can actually chew. Remember, Nemesis, no ult, gets feasted, goes down as well. And now Velia in danger in a 1 versus 4. Burton have found out you can call the back all you want. No one's on the other end of the phone. And a shutdown goes the way of Senkux as Verdant find a huge fight in the bot side.
Incredibly great awareness from the side of Verdant. They actually knew that Velia had him backed. He was half HP. And then Nemesis had to use everything to get away from Senkux. So it all stemmed from Senkux starting a 1 versus 1 versus Nemesis, chases him out, and then as you can see, Obstinatus gets there, Noodle stays around. They know that they don't have the tools to chase because Nemesis does not have the ultimate, so they do use their strengths versus Los Ratones right here. They do TP Tayron from the tops of the map as well. If you look on your minimaps from that mid lane coming down, you also have Shiganari slowly walking on the Jhin as well, having that curtain call too. I find this was a fantastic opportunity for Burden to see the trigger finger from the set of Los Ratones. Is Baus going to TP? He had TP this entire time. He didn't choose to use it. TP's way late just to grab the creeps that are underneath that tower. It just leaves him with so many question marks, right? Because what if that Sion had actually TP'd and that was a proper 5 versus 5?
I genuinely doubted that play at the beginning when you saw Noodle blow his ult early, Obstinatus hook the wall, you're going, oh boy, this is going to be a mess. And then you remember, actually, there is no ult on the Ahri. There is no ult on the Neferi, there you go, that's the name of that champion. Took me, so I was going to call it a Nemesis, and I was like, no, that's the name of the player. And actually, they played out really well, as a great curtain call angle, had a great teleport, and you can't ask for too much better. That puts Verdant right back in contention. They're still down 2,000 odd gold, though. And Lost Returns look like they want to play around this as Reckless. Forced to ult and back away. Turn on to the hook lands and a charm in turn, but here comes the Weaver's Wall. And Lost Returns, these last few plays have not been fantastic. A chunk on Develio who eviscerates away. Baus is also now ulted on in. They get the knock up with the multi-man headbutt. Pulv, health bars are low, and actually Baus can start autoing. I take it all back. There's the Hound's Pursuit, and Tayron can do what he wants, can't get in range to get the feast down. The health bar wasn't executable. Shiganari cleanses and begins to run away, hit with that Q, and Baus won't chase for him more, but actually good counter punch from Los Ratones after the start of the fight. Got a little ugly.
I feel like for Verdant, this was we were winning until we weren't. They just overextended a little bit too much. You can see how great it is when they keep their distance and they can use their tools to catch Los Ratones off guard, to punish them with the CC that they do possess, and especially when you have so many knockups on the side of Verdant. No amount of, I keep forgetting the word. No amount of tenacity, there you go, I found it, is going to negate the amount of knockups, right? The Cho'Gath, the Thalia, the Nautilus, they've got really potent CC if they can change together. And they showed us at the very beginning of this fight why it's so strong. So let's watch this one more time. Reckless even has to flash away. State of Corruption will land, and then that's where they catch Nemesis. Look at him. He doesn't even have time to react. She went from knockup to knockup, but then Senkax walks a little bit too far forward. Obstinate to spoke. Noodle goes back in with super low HP. So even though he uses the ult, Faust is already on top of him. The Shiganari just doesn't get that front line to sit there and use that curtain call, use his auto attacks. Verdant did something great, but then they just overextended and Los Ratones took advantage of it.
I mean, for a moment there, looked like Shiganari was playing Jax, because that was a counter-strike angle there. Man was getting collaterals the entire fight. Do you see how many multi-man Qs he got straight through everyone at the back end of that fight? Nasty stuff from the Varus. Nemesis, though, now looking for an ult, following up with this Ari, and Senkox flashes the charm, but where is he going? Over the wall comes Dobsonata's multi-man dredge line. And Depth Charge, I apologize, that's the name of the ultimate. Velia trying to hop away, will get knocked up by the 3 Talon Strike, and Los Ratones have gone a little deep. They'll change the corruption, try to turn this around. It does feel like those counterpunches still being very dangerous. Ends up being a 1-for-none in favor of Verdant as they blow a few summoners to come and save their mid laner's life.
Yeah, that's a flash down on Senkax, but they end up trading for a kill onto Velia, so it's definitely worth it. I'm very confused on the way that Los Ratones are playing right now, because I'm not very used to that aggression without necessarily a neutral objective being on their side, or at least something else being taken on the other side of the map. And right here, Verdant, they're going to capitalize on the fact that there's no smite on the side of Los Ratones. They'll take that Rift Herald, and slowly but surely, I feel like Verdant are starting to realize how their composition is supposed to work. This is not your typical front to back as Shiganari. It's a little bit too far forward, might have to blow his flash.
Noodles around. Big chunk, though, onto Shiganari nonetheless. Will Deadly flourish briefly and get a silver lining bit of CC. But Nemesis, look at the angle. The charm is phenomenal. And Crowny knocks down what Nemesis sets up. Reckless goes forward, does get knocked up here. Has to flash away to Noodle as Baus looks for the lane gank by driving straight down mid lane. Nemesis still got the ult to run with for a second or two more. Can look for a charm angle, lands it around the minions onto that Cho'Gath, who's a lot tanky now than he once was. But is he tanky enough to survive? Is for the moment. Baus throws up the Soul Furnace. You're over the wall goes Velia. Gets stunned up briefly, but chased onto Obstinatus. It's a double for Crowny. Gets a reset on the Hound's pursuit. Velia will go untargetable with the call of the pack. Sends those dogs straight after Noodle, who might be turning into dinner like his namesake. Gets in trouble though as he throws down the Crescent Guard, does pick off the Bias as he tries to get a few more autos down as a zombie. And the Cranberries have the right of it. What's in his head going this deep? The Dark Daggers land! And Nemesis helps get another with the very tip of the Q. Wait, curtains are called, and how many shots can they land? What's the dancing shoes like? Cranny nearly flashed into that bullet. But it all pulls away, and Los Ratones in the end come out on top. But my days, they have been willing to get down and dirty with the best of them.
I mean, hey, you get away with the health pass blinking, who cares? You still got the kills. Los Ratones got out alive, and they outplayed Verdant fantastically in this team fight. They managed to get the 2 towers over in the mid lane as well. So they used Baus as basically a Maokai or an Oracle to try and zone away Verdant. Verdant weren't actually following up with this one, so they actually got caught underneath their own towers, and Los Ratones picked them up one by one as Nemesis has found himself another target.
He has so much ability. Haste's ult is basically on no cooldown. Keeps chasing, gets another for Crowny, who's now going to his 9th kill of the game. Charm just wide as Nemesis will press the R button on the slightest provocation. And once again finds a pick onto this poor Nautilus, who's 0-6 and 6 right now. Let's have a look at this replay where we're going to have to say 0-7 instead to Verdant, who couldn't quite defend these turrets.
Yeah, I feel like that was a great ult by Baus right there, because that's the first time was going down. Just dived a little bit too deep, tried to zone away Verdant, which was great. And then when this charm lands, look how much CC they layer onto the Cho'Gath. And this is a very damn tanky Cho'Gath. They still managed to bring him down. And you connect all onto the Nautilus, take this one down as well. What is happening? The replay is down in the bottom left as we're taking a dive straight onto the mid lane tower.
Well, Herald was taken by Verdant, so they'll charge it through mid lane and get a double charge off, which is nice for them. As the cacophony stops just briefly. And we'll turn instead to look at things like Hextech Dragon. which will be spawning in relatively short order. Charge now onto Shiganari, who was kind of split off from his team, trying to back away from the Baus. Got a lot of damage with this Titanic Hydra, gets knocked up by the Rupture, will be in feast range shortly. And Tayron will indeed press the R button, and Baus's zombie runs at a few people and tries to get a few more love taps down. No pun to Misfortune's kit required.
Yeah, top right though, 17 seconds until next. Dragon and Verdun are very, very quickly trying to reset right there. Obstinatus.
Oh,
Mate,
boy.
you're on the wrong side of the moon,
boy.
and this is going to be a 1-for-1. So full versus full for this Dragon. Dragon spawning already. Verdun did not have the time to reset and get a bit of vision into this river. So it's going to be a TP from Tayron coming through, and let's see if Senkax not just to wall in, try and get something from that 4v4.
Would be a 4v4 because it goes Baus down, but then instead is the sole 4 lost returns. They get the full job with 4 dragons in a row at 23 minutes. Now turning it around by that extra lightning to their name. And somewhere out there, there's a God of Thunder or two who are approving it. This is Nemesis into the backside, multi-man slow, as the lightning begins to ground itself in the skulls of Verdun, trying to get the shutdown onto Shikanari, but Nemesis manages to bring that down in a 1-for-1. Maybe not the cleanest they'd like, actually, as Senko's running away from Velia. Knockup now onto that dog, who manages to eviscerate away to safety. Ends up being a 2-for-2, so not as clean as Lost Returns were hoping, as they went diving with their newly gained Hex Soul and got a little bit too greedy with their newfound power.
Yeah, at the end of the day, though, they do end up getting the soul. So that's all they went for. They might have overextended just a little bit right there, but not having your side in the front line. You got to get a little bit creative. And Nemesis and Velia, they take that mid-jungle power duo of Ahri and Naafiri, and they ended up diving into that backline. And this is what's very scary between the two compositions, right? Because they both have 2 big walls in front of both of their carries, the Sion and the Cho'Gath, respectively. But the thing is that Ahri and Naafiri do not care about your front line. They can find creative ways, creative flanks to get into that backline and get into contact with Shikanari and with Senkax, right? Whilst on the other side for Verdant, they kind of have to play more of an isolating game with the walls, with the knockups coming through to try and kill and chip away each and every single champion from the side of Los Ratones one by one.
They've got a lot of CC, and that's great, but the moment it's down, you're seeing people then return the play afterwards. The likes of Nemesis, Velia, Reckless have been really good at staggering those engages, buying some of those key cooldowns like the Unraveled Earth, which does make those dashes a little bit more problematic. And now, of course, we're at a point where Lost Returns are 6,000 gold ahead, sold to their name. Much of the map is theirs to wander around as they so please, and we've often criticized LR for being a little slow, a little inactive in the early games, a bit messy. It's the mid games where the macro comes out where you start to see them really begin to shine. But this game, they have been so aggressive, and largely it's been pretty successful. LPL-esque, if I dare say, at its finest.
That is true. They have been actually trying to play for the kills. And I mean, like, the mid-jungle duo really speaks for itself, right?
Yeah.
Naafiri and Ahri really want to fight, get ahead in the early game, trying to get the Naafiri fed with all those kills as Reckless. It's going to headbutt onto Obstinatus as Obstinatus cues the wall. And I feel like right here for Verdun, this will be their biggest test as they try to get some vision towards that Baron pit.
Quite deep for the Baus. I think he might be in trouble. Gets knocked up, flashes away. Curtains are called. Tayron, they're taking some big damage back. Down to about 10% HP, but over the wall goes Nemesis. Charmer, a key member of Noodle, who now crescent guards, but it might be a little too little and a little too late. Down with 3rd HP. Charmer, Nemesis unstunned up. It's not a charm, but it feels like it. That deadly flourish was the lucky charm that Verdant needed. Pick off on the mid laner. Potentially a critical one, as things like Baron are up, even if the Atakan has already fallen.
Great pick by Senkax right there. The rocks into the W to catch Nemesis, and then the root coming through from the Jinas. Velia is starting this Baron up. 30 seconds for Nemesis. Does have the TP to get in. But that is just from Velia to try and...
He's gone.
Well... Oh.
Or not. There's the
Never mind.
bleed. Gets it in the end. And unfortunate. Noodle can't quite escape as the Dark Daggers do their work. Hop over the wall away from the Rupture. And suddenly what felt like a moment where Verdun might be able to find something is quickly turned back into an even state of affairs. And unfortunately for Verdun, they don't have a smite up. And guess what's in front of them, Georgia? It's Baron.
Absolutely. They do not have a smite, but they have something that is quite equivalent to one. They've got a Cho'Gath around with a feast, so this can get pretty scary if Cho'Gath gets anywhere near the pit. But as you can see right here, Los Ratones, particularly Baus and Reckless, have made it their life's mission to not let this Cho'Gath anywhere near the pit.
Nemesis is back in TP'd in. Shiganari looking for an angle. They are doing their very best to keep the Cho'Gath away. Root, though, onto Nemesis, begins to ult on out. Reckless will get the Pulverize onto Obstinatus, and there is Baron secured. You asked them to keep the Cho'Gath out the pit, and Lost Returns heard the mission statement, and will even get a bonus to Lear at the end of it all.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Senkax ended up there. I think they were just trying to flank around to get any vision onto the pit as Theron has to flash the wall. It's pretty Los Ratones dominant right here. Let's be honest. Obstinatas has his Hex Flash away from that bush. And there's going to be a push towards the top side of the map for Los Ratones. They've got the Baron, they've got 5 members, and they're looking for the first inhibitor towers.
In comes the Hound's pursuit, and Nautilus finds his diving suit full of a lot of holes. Tayron now in danger, tries to find some value. Can't quite get a kill with that Feast. Velia low, but I don't think he cares all that much. The curtain's being called. But unfortunately for Jin, I think it's his team that'll be forced to take the bow. The spell shield tanks the 4th bullet. And Shiganari suddenly wishing he could counter 5.
Ooh, plain textbook right here from Los Ratones. Taking that mid lane inhibitor tower and the inhibitor as well. I mean, that's pretty good, right? You back off, you take your money, put it in your pocket, make it into items, and then just guarantee yourself a pretty clean game overall from the Los Ratones. 11,000 gold in the lead right now. And I think this is pretty much as done as can be. Verdant should technically be going back to the drawing board and thinking of what they're going to be playing to what I'm assuming is going to be a blue side for them next game.
Does feel that way, doesn't it? The Infinity Edge is done for Shiganari, and that's nice. The Cho'Gath is still managing to get a few items, but still nearly 5k down, despite some of the silliness early on. About 100 CS, 4 off. Oh, actually, I can't count. 6 off that. The Flame Horizon near enough reached. Close enough for me to count, even if it's not quite official, but that's still a very impressive feat, and the gold leads are pretty monumental wherever you care to look. And Verdant, with 14 seconds on the Elder Dragon, have got to try and find a way into this river without getting picked off on the way, and that's going to be no easy feat. All the while, look where Baus and Crowny are. They're in the base getting the final inhibitor.
Yeah, I think they're going to be threatening to actually end the game, because if you look on the top side of the map, there is already a wave running into the base. So Verdant right here, not only are they running back to the base, but now they're also surrounded.
Obstinatus going to get jumped on. There's the headbutt. The Pulverize gun a little deep for this one, but Reckless can make himself very tanky with the press of an R button, and his will is very unbreakable, as is his body. Unfortunately, on the other side, Verdant look mighty breakable indeed, and LR take him over an E and snap him in half. Thrown off the Hell in a Cell through the announcer's desk, 16 feet or whatever the meme is. It has been a shellacking, a bloodbath. What is it? 44 kills in under 30 minutes. Los Ratones came here to play. They want to go to Denmark and they want to do it fast. They'll do game 1 at the very least in style.
We're looking to see if Los Ratones had rebounded, right? The Nord series didn't look very clean. We looked at Baus over in the top lane. A few question marks still around that top side of the map, I have to say. Also, the combination of items in the top lane. I've never seen that combination in my life. This guy is mega cooking. Particularly on the side, something that he knows very well. But yeah, Verdant tried their best. I'd like to see them clean out their early game, because it actually looked doable. Like when they were playing properly for the team comp, but they were picking people off one by one, it looked good. And then they overextended, and then they weren't setting up for objectives. So they need some cleaning up to do in that early game. But it looked competitive in the early.
They were at least throwing some punches back, right? They found a good fight. That bot side dive was still pretty good. But Desk, you have the unenviable job of cleaning the blood off your screens and telling us exactly how we ended up with that bloodbath and how Los Ratones won the game.
Well, if I have to clean the blood, this is going to take a while. This is going to take a long time, my boy. But I agree 100%. I do think there's a way for Verdant to fight back. But with this draft and the way LR presented themselves within the Rift, there was not much saying, especially with Velia giving the attention towards the bot side as he did with the timings he had.
And it's not very usual for him, as hopefully we'll have a chance to look into it. But for now, what is important to understand is that Velia normally doesn't really show up on the bot lane. And when we look into the laning phase of Los Ratones, Crowny is normally left up pretty much to his own devices with Reckless. This game was very different. An early gank from Velia on the bot lane, then rotating to having a little bit more action on the top lane later on, but still during the laning phase. This was Velia understanding very well what was demanded from his champion and what was demanded from this team going into the draft of Verdant. And the demand was to have lanes and especially the carries accelerated from as early on as possible, plus getting in some kills into that Naafiri, because Naafiri really wants to start getting them early, and Velia did all of those just by book.
Yeah, I think just the kind of overall craziness of the game once it started to actually roll out past kind of the first grub skirmish, really, and the way that a lot of these lane assignments kind of landed, it felt like Verdant were always on the second foot, right? And either getting caught out on a rotation or just kind of committing to an objective fight just a few seconds too late. And I think it just led to a lot more freedom probably than Lost Trainer should have been afforded, or should ever be afforded, really, in a lot of these kind of circumstances that just continually snowballed the game bit by bit by bit. Once you don't see, you know, Noodle actually finding his way onto Crowny, or Crowny gets a really free chain of corruption and it starts to spread across the team because, you know, Baus is playing a really good distraction game in terms of actually finding his way into the backline with those ults. So yeah, just a chaotic game really by the end of it, that it felt like Verdant weren't able to really take a breath on and just try to reassess how they needed to play out, you know, the map states.
Yeah,
We had an idea. Yeah, tell me, Salari, tell me.
they had ideas, actually. No, I would like to say there was one specific point in the game with the tower dive. No, it wasn't even a tower dive. It was a fight on the bullet part of the map that then rotated into a tower dive that looked like Verdant actually might have an idea about what they're doing, because they managed to take down 4 members of Los Ratones. And it wasn't a fully fair fight because it was a 4 versus 5. And with classical Los Ratones, if you look at the minimap at that point, Baus was killing that top lane turret in the same time, sorry. But it looked like Verdant actually have a fighting chance, because we were still at the point in the game where the difference in the itemization and the levels wasn't that crucial. But after that, each consecutive fight, they looked lost and more lost progressively as the game continued, and it allowed for Los Ratones to not really be punished for making a mistake at some point in the game.
Yeah, when you look into the draft and you see that there was not an easy way to kill Cyan, regardless of build, there was not an easy way. And we talk about, hey, maybe they can split push, maybe they can face on the lane. But LR kept provoking these team fights, and Verdant were drawn into them.
Yeah, time and time again, right? Again, it's a weird game to break down in hindsight, just because, to me, Verdant had one real solid sequence, and Solari brought it up. It was that tower dive bot, right? That was really the linchpin moment where they had to then retreat from that play, reassess, and go, okay, now we need to go here, 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 and here. I think off the back of that bottom side play, I want to say it was Herald, though it could have already been taken down. I'm getting old. It's, memory's kind of fading a bit on that part of the game. But yeah, look, I just look towards, yes, in parts like the draft, but to me, moments where Los Ratones actually comically do overstep at times, but just aren't really appropriately punished for it. This isn't even necessarily one of those times. This is just a situation where Verdant are, again, contesting for an objective where not everyone's ready for it.
It's not just not everyone's ready. The thing is, when you look across the majority of the objectives in this game, Los Ratones were ready for them. You could see the setup, you could see them being there as early as possible. Verdant were always consistently late in their timings and in their positioning around those objectives, and that is so disappointing considering that they have Xin Zhao and Cho'Gath, so the setup is there. You can send them forward, you can do fun things with Talia Wolf, but it feels like whatever they drafted for themselves was simply not utilized in this game. Ooh, this is the one! This is the moment where Verdant looked like, hey, actually, they might know what they're doing, because this is the fight where they took down 4 Los Ratones members, and you can see the Cho'Gath on the minimap is teleporting to the bot lane right now, which is gonna take some time, but he's still going to be there on time, and in the process, his team is not really losing, because they have a really nice setup. They got Los Ratones in a very weird bottleneck position in the jungle, where it's so hard for their composition to fight, and Baus is doing Baus things on the top lane in the meantime. It doesn't really get bothered to join.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like Los Ratones do make the call not to TP him in once the play starts to go poorly, and it does enable like at least some modicum of a cross map. But again, in moments like that, you have a fight like that, right? Sure, there might be a few members here and there that take a little bit of time to make it back to the top side from Los Ratones, but because the deaths are so staggered, you saw the recall start to come in on the back of that play, right? From Verdant, and they still weren't really able to have good setup around that next Herald. So yeah, again, it's a frustrating game in some ways to watch from the perspective of Verdant, I'm sure, but again, Los Ratones very, very good mechanically around these kind of situations. Even if they end up, you know, getting punished in a situation like they did in that Tribrush play, they're able to, much like what Verdant needs to do, reassess, take a moment, and understand that, yeah, okay, maybe we're having a little bit too much fun, maybe we're stepping too far forward, and, you know, they go back at it in the way that they need to for the next, you know, play or two, until we start getting chaotic games like how it did end up wrapping up eventually.
Well, game one was a deciding one and a showcase of their ability so far on the lower bracket and their run through the lower bracket. They want that spot for Copenhagen. They want to go to Lee's Disrupt. Verdant still have two options or two choices or even two opportunities continues if they want to face LR and bring this into a bigger series, or maybe we'll get a 3-0. We don't know about that. We'll have to wait and see. And for that, we have to jump into a quick break and we will be right back. I'll see you soon. Welcome back, and straight out of the blue, let's talk about this. Velia versus Noodle. We brought about the heat map of Noodle at the beginning of the show regarding his attention towards the bot side, but now Velia was providing the same attention or even faster attention.
Yeah, this is so interesting when you look at both of these heat maps together and you compare them one to another, because Noodle so much attention during the laning phase around those lanes, especially with his bot lane, in the bushes around the dragon, and just being around the lanes as much as possible and having all the action being forced there by him. With Velia, it's very different. Most of these things are happening either in the jungle or around the dragon. You can see that the circles are getting much bigger there around the dragon in the early game. This game, completely different approach. Noodle was not as fast on the clear as Velia, despite me actually talking about Nefiri receiving a nerf to her first clear in the jungle. Definitely wasn't the case for Velia. He was quick enough to be on the bot lane and then to be around the lanes as a result.
Yeah, a big, spanner in the works. That level 3 gank, the pathing not caught out there by Verdant, just kind of tore apart really the potential early game 2v2 for Shigenari and Obstinalis, because beyond that, then they immediately had to swap out of that 2v2. Lost lane assignments never ended up really being super favorable, and curiously enough, Verdant have actually chosen to stay on red side. So no blue side swap over. We see that a lot, right? That is kind of the priority for a lot of teams. Whilst I do think perhaps the argument is a little bit over-exaggerated. We'll see what Verdant are able to cook up on red side in game number 2 with those first game 1 champs out.
If you look into the top, you know what can't be picked anymore, and those are like the stable picks towards LR. And interestingly enough, the Azir being banned away by LR when Nemesis is just a king on the Azir. Maybe they're trying to save it. They want to bring a different sort of playstyle. Poppy as well for Titan, which means mobility could be something in the mists as the Pantheon, so junglers are being hit right now.
And interesting enough, Jace being banned by Verdant this time. Probably not wanting to give it to Los Ratones on the blue side, but it's not exactly a champion that Los Ratones go into, especially when it comes to the top lane. It is a Terran champion. It is not a Bouth champion.
I mean, the weird thing is, I don't think I recall Los Ratones playing any Jace besides maybe a game over at EMEA. Like, they've not done it here, right? Obviously, it would be a Nemesis champion as a Rumble as well. I mean, these are very standard bans from Verdant, but they're not playing against the standard team.
Yeah, I'm confused. Are we not having them,
The switch. I was about to ask you, Jamada. You are on champion select. Can you check?
Well, see, here's the funny thing about the TR client is it doesn't actually tell you whether or not it doesn't tell you the players. So I actually also, whilst I am in the in the select, I don't have the names come up. So I'm going to assume for the time being that this is the correct sides, that Verdant are on blue, are on red. I will perhaps ping Tiv.
I
for
pinged
confirm.
them already, This is so interesting.
It is actually very bizarre.
No way.
So this has to be
Right,
okay. Verdant is blue. Okay, good. We were
swapped. Okay,
It's
we were bamboozled.
Yeah. I hadn't looked at the client since I joined. The lobby started before I could even really take in who was on sides. So yeah, for the time being, we will obviously get this fixed ASAP. Verdant is on blue side, guys. Verdant is on blue side.
Makes so much
are on red.
sense.
I'm sorry, this is way too good.
But
hopefully we can get that sorted out.
yeah,
I was about to say, like, bro, banning Rumble, Bounce Rumble, that doesn't make sense. This has to be
This
wrong
will never
side.
happen.
So
yeah. And
no.
also
So
then
that should.
be one misfortune for Los Ratones, for a Crowny who doesn't play misfortune. Yeah. It makes more sense for Shigenari though. Shigenari does play misfortune, and we have seen Verdant choosing her a lot for the bot lane and trying to kind of build the team around her.
So okay. Now everything is fixed, and as soon as possible, production will swap it. There you go. You got it. It's fixed. Because at this moment, Azir versus Nemesis on Nemesis side. Corki, it's still a flex. It could go either way, but we've seen Crowny piloting this Corki, and this is going to be aggressive as much as they can. Ooh, I like this.
Yeah, Jarvan here for Velia. Does kind of put a little bit of pressure on Senkux to potentially find something a little bit more mobile and not super vulnerable, as the MF is already there. I'm curious about what the support pick now will actually end up being for Reckless, because it feels like a lot of this composition is likely going to be geared to aggressive play, Los Ratones, whereas obviously kind of counter to that, Rector's champion pool is usually a little bit more neutral standing, right? The closest to engaged champs that he really plays are the Alistar and the Rakan. The Alistar was the game 1 pickup, so if Verdant ban Rakan, at that point, do you just go Renata and kind of consider that ultimate the over-the-top engage, or do you actually land on something like the Rel, like he was hovering in that game 1?
I'm also...
Bard is also another one.
Yeah. Listen, I have a question to Nemesis right now as to what Nemesis is going to be playing, because this J4 pick kind of signals that most likely Koki is going to crown his hands on the bot lane, and then there has to be a mid lane that is going to have synergy with J4. But Orianna, for example, was the first idea on my mind. Nemesis has played it, works really well with J4, banned out by Los Ratones. Ari, for example, is not available anymore, as you can see on the top, because it was taken in game number 1. So what is Nemesis playing? Because he doesn't necessarily play those artillery mages that also work rather well with J4, just, you know, shooting from afar into the ultimate, into somebody being called in the ultimate. And now with Syndra being banned, what is Nemesis gonna be playing?
So we've seen Wei in the past for Nemesis, where you can play from afar, but since you have the Gragas being played, you can also bring something like the Yone and try to be in the mix of the fight. I was wondering, like, Silas could be an answer when you have those sort of ultimates on the other side, but they themselves ban them. So I think this either an AD or maybe the Wei or another weird idea. I don't know, Jamal.
I would love Hui here out of Senkox, actually. I think it's really, really efficient at dealing with dive. You've got a lot of utility, a lot of AoE damage, so it almost becomes a little bit easier if these targets are coming and, you know, towards you and diving on top of you to make that damage come out. Victor, in a very similar vein, whilst of course he's immobile, he's very, very good, weirdly, at times at surviving dive, just because of the movement speed of the Q once you get that evolution, and of course the passive. What this does, however, set up for is a pretty strong Galio game. So I'll see and hold my breath. Nemesis has plenty of options, whether they be utilitarian like that Galio, or a little bit more damage and side lane focused like the Akali. I think he's got a punch of freedom to do whatever the hell he wants, and he's going to give us an Akali game.
Okay, I like this. When you see both teams, more balanced, I think. But from your point of view, Solari and Jamada, where does it land? Where does the W is going to land?
I mean, I personally think that the lane matchups are pretty solid here for Verdant. Again, much like game 1, but I do have a lot of faith in Los Ratones' ability to not only pilot those matchups, but then also kind of enable Velia off the back of small windows to, you know, take massive leads like we saw off that level 1 setup in game 1 too. So I'm leaning towards Verdant in terms of draft, but I just, again, I feel like Los Ratones' macro and their overall mechanics is likely going to claw them through.
I am not convinced on how good Misfortune and Victor are going to look in this game, considering how oversteppy both teams were in the previous game, and these two champions can be punished really badly for that. At the same time, for Los Ratones, they have champions who are usually okay with overstepping because they want to be stepping into the enemies a lot. So I would say, judging by how game number 1 went, Los Ratones should have this one with the draft.
Okay, that means at the end of this game, there will be a 2-0 and match point for Los Ratones to move forward. Is this going to be the truth? Or will Verdant find a way in order to find the solution and the answer? Let's toss it to the castles, Initialize and Trouble. What do you think?
Funnily enough, we both agree with what was said on desk. Tags off. That's a great draft from Verdant. Tags on. The mechanical expression to a team with really good hands, with the likes of an Akali or Jarvan. Sounds pretty scary to me, Georgia.
I mean, yeah, let's take as example the previous game, right? Where, as we're going to straight into that game too, where in game 1, I feel like Los Ratones took so many disadvantageous fights on paper, but they came out of them with like blinking health passes because they outplayed their opponents, right? And this draft for me at least screamed Akali by Nemesis. You knew that Senkox was going to go for a control mage over in the mid lane, unless you want to blind Tristana, which kind of work, but then you have too much AD damage, right?
Yeah.
Together with all the rest. So Akali is pretty much a no-brainer with champions like Vi or Jarvan, who really like to dive deep, and they really like a body with them. And Akali does offer that body, and I'm actually worried for Siganari. He wasn't allowed to play the fights in the previous game because of Ari Nafiri. This time around, he's going to have J4 and Akali in his face.
Yeah, a little harder, that one, to manage, it has to be said. Two immobile carries, yes, with good protection, don't get me wrong, and you've got good zone control with gravity fields and saplings and all the things that you can put down to make it hard to get in. But there are just so many tools, Georgia. Literally everyone on Lost Returns has so much mobility, and we have started to see some teams draft towards that around the world, just saying, look, yes, you can set up all these front lines that you want, but if everyone has an ability to try and dash from a weird angle, it can be really hard to keep track and manage them all, particularly in the mid game.
Yeah. Now, I will say, watching LPN and like Akali's over there, Rakan is such a great tool for disengage. The second Akali dives in, the R button on Rakan really does stop any further aggression. And then you've got Maokai piling up on top of the CC. You've got Victor with his gravity field. So there are tools right there that if they do spot the Akali or last minute see Nemesis, they can disrupt him from getting into the backline. What I'm fearing the most from if I'm Verdant is the Gragas. Because I'm pretty sure this is going to be a full-on Bomba Gragas coming from the bows, which means that even if you don't have the access to the backline, one of your combos can get Misfortune dangerously low enough that all it needs is that one last hit from Corki, from Javan, from Akali. So is this going to get really dangerous playing around the Gragas with how mobile a champion like Misfortune is?
It's another engaged champ from Reckless. There's no enchanters to be seen, no Renatas or Lulus. Or even a Janna, which of course we've all come to know and love when he's on. Back towards that engage option. Looking to see whether he can catch someone out, and that'll be something to keep our eyes on. And I completely agree again about that Gragas. The other thing is it'll help break up that front line. You can set up all the wonderfully arrayed structures and defenses you want, but Baus can just press R and mess them all up in really short order. Be a really annoying person at the beach, would Baus. Your sandcastle would never survive more than 5 minutes. At the moment I say that, though.
Well, he did survive 3 minutes for now. 3 minutes. He's got 2 to go. However, I'm pretty sure he's going to TP straight back underneath his tower. And Maokai is heading towards the top side of the map. I'm not sure what quite the wave looks like. I think Tayron's going to be taking the reset right here, yeah. So there's no shenanigans for diving Baus. Gragas is pretty slippery as well after level 3. However, yeah, I would like to see a little bit more from Tayron as a Velia.
Looking down bot, can't quite find as much as I think he was hoping for. Obstinatus and Shiganari a little low, but they can get some healing courtesy of some passive and some gleaming quills. Always a surprisingly good bit of sustain that on the Rakan in the laning phase. Away, shove bot side allows a potential roam. Double knockup from Obstinatus buys a bit of a time here as Velia also takes a turret shot and needs to begin to back away, but look who's roaming down. There's the Maokai, there's the Victor. They are indeed assembling. Dun dun dun. Senkus looks for that Siphon power, looks for the auto, can't quite find it, but gets the gravity field slow. And the final empowered order comes on down as Reckless is waddling around without a horse, and unfortunately, the big tree will be helping donate another kill over towards the Victor, who helps claim the feats of warfare as well towards Verdant. They just need a turret or a few objectives, and they'll have the full expanded boots. Upgraded boots, that's a better way to phrase that.
Characteristically enough, for the side of Los Ratones, that was a very forced dive. They sticked around way too long, sank extra time to push out that wave. He's got a bunch of wave clear into the Akali, moved down the river, Noodle on his right path from the top lane, Scuttlecrab to the bot lane, Scuttlecrab to aid to the bot side dive. And let's watch this one more time. That was just a little bit too much right here. Great knockup for Obstinatus. Means that Velia is stuck on his own onto Shiganari, so they cannot actually conclude that dive, which means that when they try to leave one by one, as we have more action, they end up falling to Verdant, is the short story, as well as looking for Tayron, and is not going to find him.
No, Tayron just gets to walk away. Did have to blow his flash, it's worth noting, so did get that summoner at the very least, so not entirely a wasted game, but all the while, Noodle on a Maokai is out-farming the Jarvan pretty heavily here, and that's not something you see every day of the week. Looking to turn this around, though, as the Make It Rain comes on down. Noodle looking to get behind onto Reckless, who does have the crash down, doesn't have the flash, and the autos keep flying. Finally crash down, but the Sapling's running at him. It's a very aggressive, shades-wearing Maokai. Sapling is the DRX one, which for some reason just includes a lot of sunglasses, and won't quite catch on to the Iron Horsewoman.
Funnily enough, we kept singing the praises of Shiganari for Verdant, and rightfully so, as I'm going to hold on to this. They're diving Crowny here.
We'll try and find a way out, but heavy is the Crowny, and unfortunately not heavy enough to fly out to safety there, even on a cool spaceship courtesy of Crowny. I suppose it's a nice toboggan in this game, but the point still stands. He dies, second death for him in this bot lane. It's kind of falling apart now here a bit, Georgia. Shiganari, a person we've often praised and focused on as a focal carry point for Verdant, 32% of the team's damage. Well, he's 2-0-1.
absolutely where Verdant want him to be, right? They prioritized him on the draft. That was a B1 Misfortune, a very bold move, actually, to lock in Misfortune on B1. And they're actually playing for him. They've created an entire composition that is very anti-dive, very immobile carry friendly to help him survive the further assault coming through from Akali, from Javan, from Gragas diving the backline. So far, so good. Noodle has paid a lot of attention towards the bot side of the map. And if you're a Los Ratones fan, then you're in your comfort zone. We're back to normal. Los Ratones early game, baby.
I mean, across all time, Shigenari's played a lot of Misfortune. This will be his 16th game. Something like a 70% win rate on it, just shy. And this is looking pretty good for him so far. He can turn it into something a little bit more, of course, all the while. Los Ratones do manage to stabilize a little, pick up a dragon, and again, it's not like the first time we've seen Los Ratones mess up an early game and then find their ways back in the mid. They are so good at finding and picking up resources and relying on their mid-game prowess of a lot of their side laning to get back into games as Baus. Let's get hit by that Darkin Blade Part 3. Another DRX skin, by the by. And Terran will not turn that around for anything more. I appreciate the synergy between top and bot there. Nemesis has found a roam timer, though, Georgia, and I think this Aatrox might now be in a spot of bother. Flash for the perfect execution. R2 is available and doesn't even need to burn it, just uses the Q instead.
It's not even needed. That was a great transition right there from Nemesis. Leaves that mid lane, heads towards the top side of the map, and meanwhile, Baus is resetting. He's already on his way to mid lane to catch the wave, pushed in by potentially Senkax right here. And as Verdant are looking to gain some vision towards the bot side of the map, that was a pretty great roam coming through from Nemesis. As an Akali, you're usually thinking about the ways that this champion comes online, and the number one thing that really does bring Akali online, especially if you play towards that item, is the Rocket Belt. It gives you a lot more accuracy to the backline. The extra burst helps with the damage done, and usually they say, play safe until you have that Rocket Belt, then you're actually a champion on Akali. As right here, Verdant, they're trying to commit towards those Void Grubs. They call Velia.
Just to drag himself back out with the press of the E button. Velia now backs into the pit. They get the Maokai route down on a couple of people, but not to a huge avail. Terran, though, no ult, still in the pit. Gonna back away. They'll take the single grub and extract, not willing to stick around and fight, especially with Corki nowhere near. It's been a 4v3, I believe, as both AD carries not on the board there. So they'll give over 2 of the grubs, but not the full set. But still a marker towards the objective feat of strength, though. I will note, Baus gets a decent bit of damage there onto Terran, and that'll be the end of it for now.
The very important bits right here is that Verdant have gotten all of their kills on their actual carries. By definition, they've got it on the Victor, 2 kills on the Victor, 2 kills onto that Misfortune. So for Nemesis, getting that 1 kill over on the top side of the map is very, very important. Again, getting to your first item as Akali is so important because you actually get a huge spike. You can really start playing for that mid-jungle duo with Javan and Akali. Both the carries for the side of Verdant extremely immobile. But so far, we have seen Verdant play very, very cautiously, actually, around those neutral objectives. Like before, you saw they didn't really have the vision. They didn't walk into the river to contest for the dragon. With the Void Grabs, they were a little bit more cautious in terms of like Maokai walking in first, together with Tayron. So far, so good. We asked for Verdant to clean out their early game, and they've done exactly that.
They absolutely have, and with the exception of that nice bit of flashy play from Nemesis to catch Tayron on a really good lane reset from Baus and course, Nemesis we were mentioning, it's kind of been relatively Verdant favored. They make a good defensive counterplay bot side into a good aggressive play just after. They would like to start keeping that up, though, as Reckless finding a re-engage onto Shigenari. Flashes away, but Nemesis looking to come on over, looking for the perfect execution. A bomber! Out comes the explosive cask and drinks Misfortune under the table.
That is indeed the perfect execution right there. Gragas casket in the face. Baus with a really nice roam. They managed to capitalize onto Shigenari, who just now purchased his Bloodthirster. I guess he wishes he had that just a little bit tad earlier. The extra shield could have potentially saved his life right there. But that was a lot of committed bodies to try and shut down Shigenari on the bot side of the map. And as you can see, Tayron is cosplaying as the Baus. Now he's been left alone in his own devices over on the top side of the map, trying to proxy that wave. He's gonna know better this time around and try to wrap around to push the rest of it. As Noodle is on the top side of the map, trying to gain some control, some vision over on the top side with the Skull Crab.
Appears to be a singular trapped caster minion trapped next to the turret. I wondered whether it was a spectator bug and then it started autoing.
I think it's
so
a
for
bug,
whatever reason. Yeah, it just doesn't want to move. It was started autoing. It turned and autoed. So it's clearly been trapped there by some nefarious Riot coding. The spaghetti has stayed there, and as a result, the caster minion has sat down to eat dinner or something.
Baus trapped it there as a tower defense.
It's some cunning plan that he's made to wave manipulate.
All right, we have Dragon up in about 35 seconds. And as you can see on your minimaps right now, 4 members of Verdun over on the bot side of the map. Theron really does need to reset right here, but I'm not quite sure that he does have anything worthy of buying right now, as Baus is going to continue proxying the wave. This is the time where Theron needs to actually head back to his tower, because the wave is going to be incoming.
Oh, doesn't quite get cast back towards him, but the flash body slam! And Baus finds the solo, drinks another one under the table. This man is on a mission, and that mission is explosives.
Yeah, click checks Theron right there on whether Theron was going to pre-flash or not. Actually, flash body slam is one of the hardest abilities because you can't really predict it. You either have to pre-flash or you're dead by the time it has landed. So Theron right there does get actually flash checked by Baus. And the solo bolo coming through 2-0 for Baus on this Gragas right now. And I'm seeing a very offensive item coming through us. Theron TPs towards the tops of the map.
Yeah, I think I spotted it too. There's the Cosmic Drive and a Storm Surge for the Akali as well. No mobility, just damage. They know what they want to do this game. They'll throw down the Cataclysm. Noodle is the target. They'll begin to pre-ult himself, but that bullet time was just not it, as Velia managed to flag and drag out. And so without those key ultimates, I feel like Verda are going to have to give this dragon up.
Yeah, that was quite unfortunate right there. Of course, Theron doesn't feel like he can walk into this river with just a couple of components in his inventory. This is a 4 versus 5. Verdun are literally stuck on spectator mode. You can't walk into the river. You can't take the fight. You can't push the mid lane tower. They need to figure out another way of playing around those neutral objectives. This is the thing that really can hinder your mid game when you are playing that quote-unquote spectator mode, which is, you know, you cannot potentially enter that river ever. You know you can potentially gate into a fight ever, but you're stuck in this limbo of not knowing exactly how to push out your waves. Luckily for them, Theron TPing topside is what resolved the issue for them, and they got a few tower platings there.
The all-in ends up being an ult-for-ult trade. He just doesn't want to use it to try and go for the kill. I think with the Gravity Field and the Hex Storm, Arcane Storm, that's the name of it, on top of him, decided against it. Theron trading with the Baus, who's continued to phase rush to be very obnoxious, gets the Drunken Rage auto into the body slam. And the barrel roll as well, finding a lot of great combos. There's the ult as well. Reckless now coming from behind the turret, looking to mess with him. Flash over the wall this time. Keep the Aatrox safe alongside the World Ender, but unfortunately for him, looks like it's his world that's getting a lot smaller.
Yeah, Theron's not been having a fun game right here. It feels like Baus's Gragas, it's kind of difficult to deal with. I feel like Gragas and Aatrox are sort of similar in terms of like, Gragas is a bruiser mage, and then Aatrox is an AD kind of mage champion. So they're pretty similar in the way that they use their abilities mostly to trade rather than their auto attacks, even though they're both capable of doing this. However, Theron has been struggling in lane quite a bit, and this is a 1.2k gold lead onto this Gragas, who, again, we said Akali, no problem. Java, no problem. Corki, no problem. This Gragas is going to be very, very problematic for Misfortune and Shiganari. The second he doesn't have his flash available, he's going to have to watch all his angles for that cask.
I fear for Shiganari's well-being in these fights. Absolutely everyone has a way to mess with him. Even the Corki jumping forwards with the Valkyrie can get really annoying. You ever stop to bullet time, there'll be a Cataclysm and a Magnet Storm and a Perfect Execution and the Explosive Cast. There's so many tools to make the decision-making process, the positioning for Shiganari, really, really tricky. Speaking of,
I was about to say, hold up, have you jinxed it? Oh, there we go.
Oh, flashes one, can't flash the rest. Over comes Tehran, a flash on out to safety. Turret shot's tagged by a Reckless, but Tehran can turn up and, I don't know, wave goodbye to his AD carry, about all he gets to do there.
I mean, we talked about Shiganari and his flash and how important it is to walk into these neutral objectives, and right now he doesn't have it. That's free food for Akali, Gragas, and anyone in between from the side of Los Ratones. 1,000 gold in the lead. Nemesis pushing towards that bot side of the map. They're going to get that bot lane tower. You see Veldia has already invaded the bot side of the map, trying to take anything he can away from Noodle's jungle. And Verdant are taking whatever's left on the map, which is not the worst case scenario right here. Taking that Rift Herald, you could potentially look to open side lanes or that mid lane to try and catch anyone trying to shove in that wave a little bit too far. However, Verdant have sort of been falling into their own traps, right? I feel like overextending versus a team like LR, your hand's going to get chopped off real quick.
Like, if you lose track of a Jarvan and a Rel for more than, say, 10 seconds, you've got to be aware they could just be in your lane looking to gank, and that's going to happen on repeat with how aggressively Lost Returns have been playing in these mid games. Yep, the early game was a bit of a fumble this time around, and Verdant definitely had a better platform to play with, but it's now Lost Returns back in command of the game. They've got 1,000 gold, they've got the early dragons, and that feels good. At least for Verdant, they do scale pretty well. They've gotten a couple kills onto the Victor and the Misfortune, even if they had kind of been forced back towards more of an even game state from where they were early on. But you're not without options as the game goes on. They just need to kind of stop the bleeding, I guess, Georgia?
I think the most important part right here is that if Terran manages to hold Baus on a side lane, even though this matchup is losing for Terran currently, I feel like because the most accumulated gold is on Baus, and he's very, very scary, particularly for Shigenari with no summoner spells, right? You can keep him on a side lane potentially, and you can take those 4v4 fights. I can see how Verdant could very easily be in the lead in terms of how they want to team fight, because Aatrox doesn't necessarily add a layer of protection onto the Misfortune. He's kind of just a disruptor for the backline of LR. So even if he's not there later on and they make it a 4v4 and Gregerson is on a side lane, Verdant can take this very, very positively into their team fights.
Worth keeping our eyes on that. Can Terran keep Baus out of those team fights? Easier said than done. It does feel like Baus has managed to find his way to a few good team plays already this game. Herald, though, was picked up earlier and is now dropped mid lane. Also, as the Hextech Dragon is spawning, so uses a counterweight to force their way into River. TP behind, though. We're going, and in comes the Baus. Looking to get on top of Shigenari, but of course, he's got Struck to work with right now. Baus goes looking for it. Finds the explosive cast onto Senko. He's managed to back away, but Nemesis in the backside finishes what his partner in solo lane started. Does kind of get caught up by Noodle, though. Will get traded. Value a little bit split off himself. Looks to get on top of Senko. Throws down the gravity field. In comes the grand entrance. Senko's doing his best to stay alive. Gets another side for power flash for the auto. Can't quite get it. As Obstinado's trying to bounce around. Terran looking in. Gets another flag and drag. Will finally bring down the Rakan, but importantly, Senko does survive. Ends up being a 2-for-2. Jungler dead, though, for Lost Returns. I'll note Verdant's health bars not fantastic.
I'm not gonna lie, I just feel so bad for Shigenari, man. That flank from Baus and Nemesis were just pixel perfect. Pinching him onto literally no man's land. You don't have flash, you don't get to play the team fights. Again, this is how miserable it is when you B1 a champion like Misfortune or any type of AD carry that doesn't move very easily. As I'm gonna hold on to that thought because Akali is coming back in, and that's a 4 versus 4.
Do the 4 versus 4. Dragon, of course, being fought with no smite. Out comes the bullet time. Shigenari.
Not again! Not again!
Here comes the Storm Surge and that 5-point strike. Crowny now trading up with Sango's got nowhere to go. Verdant Noodle are going to have to flash out the back, as is Terran. They get out with the Dragon, but they lose 2 for the price.
Oh, man.
Oh, he's not done. He's looking. There's the
I just feel
Lasco.
so...
Oh,
I just feel
my
so
God.
bad for Shigenari. I mean, Terran's gonna be fine here. But I just feel so bad for Shigenari, man. It's like, you don't have flash, you don't get to exist, you don't get to stand still to bullet time. Nemesis is also too slippery here. They won't be able to catch him. Baus is around the corner as well. And it's just miserable, right? To play any mobile AD carry, whether that's called Misfortune or any other thing. They've got so many disruptors from the side of LR, and the good thing is for them that they don't necessarily have an AD carry on the side of LR that requires any sort of formation. Like, Forky is pretty fine playing on his own, and look at this. Baus from the top side, Nemesis from the bot side, Obstinados and Senkax, by the time they see Akali, their AD carry is already dead. So even though they did luckily manage to trade too, I mean, look at how long it takes for a Jarvan with the Sun and Sky to die.
Tried to flash that Martial Cadence auto, and luckily for Obstinado's got into the bush briefly. He does eventually fall, but bought enough time to at least get something back. And they do get the Dragon. It's just the fact that respawn comes on through, and now the Sakali is 3-1. You saw before we went to that replay, Nemesis was looking for more even on Terran and kind of decided it was a little bit too far once he took an auto or 2 more than he was hoping for. But they are definitely not playing scared of Lost Returns. Let's say that.
I mean, they've got the damage, right? And they've got the items. Noodle has gone for the double aggro item onto Maokai as well. The double burn aggro item onto the Maokai, and he's actually the only one who's on 2 items right now. Hold up. Obstinatus, and he's gone.
Get something back. They lose Obstinatus. Reckless now in a bit of danger. Taught on the wrong side of the gravity field, so it will be a trade of supports. On the other side, though, Terran gets jumped on. Damage back, but here comes the healing. The bullet time is good enough to force Nemesis to R2 away. There's no D2 players in this game there. They're all a little higher in the ranks than that. Jump onto Noodle, gets a Bramble smash back, but Baus throws out a cask. and brings down the tree anyway. Lumberjack via explosives.
It's just so difficult, man. Verdant are trying to get any sort of vision inside their own jungle, and it's just not possible right now. You see how Los Ratones are using Fog of War to sort of flank around, right? Again, every single champion they have can play the teamfight however they please. They've got so much agency, each and every one of them for themselves. So they just bring Verdant in a situation where if you stick us 5, then Java gets a huge ult. If you don't stick us 5 and we isolate you, that's perfect. They've got so many type of assassins in the team to take you on. And right now, especially having the pocket to back it up with extra items is really, really hurting Verdant. If they can actually get a front-to-back going and not allow Akali to play onto this backline, it could potentially be the key to victory. And right here, Akali doesn't have ult. Doesn't matter. Arakan's already gone.
And take it before Verdant can come and try and use the 2 items they've largely picked up. You heard what you asked for, Georgia. It's just not being provided to them right now, and that gold lead is pretty significant now at 3,500 golds. Managed to not get the feat of strength, they'll note. Verdant did actually get that via the objectives earlier on, so there is that little bonus there. I don't think it's going to be enough to bring them back into the game by itself. Maybe if they can manage one of these next objective fights well, they'll be able to stabilize the game that is slipping away from them. It does feel like every ward is a fight right now, though. We've got a minute and a half until Soul Point for Lost returns, and I suspect that will be our next point of conflict, nearly inevitably.
I will say, though, whenever there's, like, not so much of a substantial lead, like, right here you've got, like, a 3,000 gold lead, and it is a pretty substantial lead, but what I mean is, first of all, it's split among multiple members of the Son of Los Ratones, and right here, both sides have got second items completed minus Tabor on the top side of the map, right? So you've got 2 items of Misfortune, 2 items on the Victor, 2 items on the Maokai. So it's not like necessarily lacking too much in terms of power. It's just that Verdant have not yet realized how they want to play these team fights because they do not have the vision. And someone has to face check, but they don't really have anyone who's tanky enough to face check champions that can really burst you out of existence like the most Los Ratones have. So Verdant need to first figure out how to gain any sort of vision, walk forward, figure out their formation, have wards behind them, because flanks have been a huge thing for Los Ratones in the way they play, and it's just way too many elements that are trying to come together, and it's just very difficult when you are in a gold deficit to make that work.
It very much is, and the fact they've got no turrets yet either makes it just that little bit trickier to control waves and set up for that initial map state to go for those shoves. As it stands, Dragon spawning and Verdant are the ones in the river right now, but again, there are flank angles. Look at the minimap. You can see Nemesis on a flank angle again. Reckless in the pit already. And that could get very scary as it's mid lane that people are fighting over the wave on right now. Away from that flank for now is Nemesis. Reckless still in the river, though. Verdant, understandably, sticking around as a group.
But they have to always keep their eye on Nemesis, right? They've got a couple of wards behind them. They've got 2 control wards, if I'm not wrong, and they're trying to play with their back against that mid lane, but this is where Baus comes from. Nemesis is now through the jungle. The other side is full of Los Ratones members.
Oh, there comes the Cataclysm, and down goes Corki, though. That's not bad work. Bullet time is solid. Finds a lot of damage on the value. Has to flash away. Baus split up from the team. Terran beginning to jump at him. Just gets a body slam over the wall. Looking for some more damage. Senkus with a Lich Bane on this Victor. Can look to play around those Siphon Power autos a little bit more. Nemesis takes the Hex Gate. Will immediately get out to safety, but that does mean with that member down, Verdant can look to take this Dragon.
Yeah, and Terran is actually keeping Baus in check, at least for the time being. Doesn't want to let him in. There are a few low HP bars right here. Nemesis and Baus are playing with them.
Ask away, but they can look to try and catch him out as the Make It Rain comes on down. Misfortune turning into a meteorologist briefly as I fumble that word. There's a lot of M's and O's and various other things in there. And Verdant get out with the Dragon, really importantly. That's a good moment for them, and it buys them time.
Actually, they did something very, very clever. There's a oh my god. See, you tried...
I started it, I'm sorry.
It's contagious, apparently, okay? There's a thing where it's like, if there's too many flanks, there's really no credible flanks to try and get kills, right? And right there, what Los Ratones did was they spread themselves way too thin to the point where Verdant focused all their efforts onto getting one member. That one member was Crowny, and that was a 4 versus 5 instantly in favor of Verdant.
Noodle just died, and guess what spawned about a minute ago? It is Baron. You've got a Corki on 2 items. Do they want to force this? They're certainly threatening it. Over towards it they go. Baus shoving in the other side. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. LR start the purple worm.
Yeah, Baus does not have TP. Just gets his level 16 and starts walking towards the objective. The TP coming through from Tayron.
Try and play this around again. No smites. It would be a 4v5. Tayron trying to play this one out regardless. Nemesis still in the Twilight Shroud, looking for an angle. Into the backline they go with the quickness, trying to buy some time. Nemesis continuing to threaten. They've got the mid-tier 1 to work around still. And Crowny kills off Senkux. In comes the Cataclysm. The bullet time to try and stand and deliver. As Shiganari tries to draw the guns at noon. But it's a final hour in this game. Tayron tries to jump on forwards, but will die. Regardless, World Ender, unfortunately apt for Verdant's team fight.
Oh boy, you saw how Verdant was so careful, trying to play underneath their tower, trying to not allow a lot of flanks coming through from Los Ratones. But you're forgetting Crowny on that Corki, and they let him free hit the entire time. He's just becoming so complicated right here, right? Because if it's not Shiganari getting called, then Senkux gets thrown into the mix with Baus's ult. And again, this Gragas has been so damn disruptive for both Senkux and Shiganari. And there's only so much you can do, right? You can be careful, but you can never know where the cask is going to come from as Obstinatus. Trying to get a little bit of intel on what's going on. We all know what's going on. I think they know what's going on as well.
Apparently, it's getting the Baron as Obstinatus hops back over the wall. Doesn't have anyone to battle down to quite yet. There is Senkux in that top lane, so should be able to get there out to safety well enough. But that is a breakpoint. The gold lead balloons again. This time more towards that 6,500 mark, which is getting to get a little unmanageable. 1,500 odds in the jungle and mid, 1,000 at the bot, and top lane. Again, a monumental individual lead from Baus, who is taking one of our Rookie of the Split contenders to task right here in playoffs.
Absolutely. And Los Ratones right here. They're going to look for the last, I was about to say the last dragon now. For some reason, I thought they had 3. They have 2. It's going to be sole point for them. They're trying to take again. What they've been doing so well this game is entering the
What?
Where did
Skill
my Victor
issue?
go?
He decided that he was going to go to the Shadow Realm. He's playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Now rather than League of Legends, and Baus has
with
decided
Yugi's grandpa.
to help tonight. Exactly. There are no weak players in my grandpa's team, but currently there is a dead Senkux, and he'll respawn in 30 seconds and look to prove Yugi true at some point in the future.
That's actually so tough. You're playing against Baron the up team, full 5 members of Los Ratones, 3 waves pushing towards your base. Crowny and Reckless around that mid lane. You've got Nemesis and Velia over on the bot side of the map. This is going to be 2 outer towers taken straight away from the side of Los Ratones. That's a pretty successful Baron buff so far. And it comes from Baus. Taking just a member off the map means that you have to bundle up the rest to try and defend the other sides of the map. Unless, well, oh my.
Oh.
Damage.
He has a death cap, by the way.
Of course he does.
This Gragas kinda hurts, folks.
I'm telling you, man, like, they can live with the Akali and the Corki and the Javan diving in, but Gragas is just such a disruption, such a nuisance in the backline. The more immobile you are, the more you're going to suffer playing against Gragas. And it's just the fact that you're not playing against a tanked Gragas. You're playing against Baus's Gragas. Talking about it, though.
Okay. Trying to catch him off. They go for the bush bait on the other side of the map where the dragon is. Good dash away. The strut is enough. Misfortune on the catwalk mid-team fight. Gets herself out to safety. Got a man advantage now coming into the dragon. 20 seconds until it spawns. This would be sole point for either team. And Verdant, I think, want to take this moment to finally find a way back into the game.
Yeah, but what's the vision again? Nemesis on the left side, Reckless on the bottom, Velia and Crowny on the right. That's just, again, a sandwich that Los Ratones are trying to create right here. They're trying to buy time for Baus to come back online. 30 seconds on the death timer and TP up and available. Is Los Ratones going to take this fight? There are summoner spells on Shiganari and Senkux, so this is not going to be as easy to get to the backline.
Nemesis currently taking Raptors. Are they going to give up this dragon? Maybe they don't want this play. I think it is gone. No way for Velia to get over from where he is. They'll throw out the Maokai ult, trying to punish them as they're in the wrong side of the jungle of Los Ratones. Managed to back away far enough to not get hit by the Nature's Grasp. Aaron avoids that Demacian standard that's thrown down. There will be no Dragon Strike to connect.
Guys, your bases are on the opposite side.
A little bit, yeah. Why? Nemesis has got onto an inhibitor turret. How has this happened?
Well, the entire time that Verdant, as Obstinatus has been left for dead behind, so we're gonna ignore that. The entire time that Verdant were actually focusing on getting the dragon, the entire Los Ratones was already on the bot quadrant of Rules jungle. So they had taken complete control, complete vision, they had already pushed down the waves. It was more that Verdant tried to leverage the fact that they had already taken 1 kill and it was a 4 versus 5, trying to take something off the map. And actually, that Dragon Soul is a win con. if Verdant managed to get out of their base in 4 minutes and somehow miraculously make their way through their fully warded jungle and avoid Casks and Akalis and Jarvans and all the damage thrown their way by Los Ratones and smite that dragon, there is a chance for a comeback.
Well, we said it was looking like that coming into that Soul Point fight, and they still managed to find it. It's still not been perfect, of course, because they end up taking a lot of structural damage from it. Honestly, probably critical structural damage. An inhibitor in mid lane, and at least the inhibitor turret in bot really stinks. That's 8,000 gold now for Lost Returns, and the control you talked about in the jungle still sat there. There's 1 or 2 wards.
Oh,
That's about
no.
it, and they're a long way away.
Poor Summer Child.
Yeah, Obstinatus may well be in so much danger, gets casked away to safety. So fortunately, he gets to live until autumn.
Yeah, I was about to say that's a Fnatic push, and 2 of them played for Fnatic. So they know very well what a Fnatic bush should look like and what it should be, as they're chasing down Nemesis right here.
He goes golden, means he avoids the Bramble Smash. Out comes the ult, though, from the Maokai, looking to try and keep him to set dead. He does actually get out to safety. A lot of burn, though, onto Nemesis, who has to R out. Be the Zhonya's used and the ult used, but no additional summers. A little bit too far from the Verdant, who can't secure the full kill. Faust on a flank angle himself, though. Does he? Surely he doesn't want this, right?
Nah, but I feel like if he does stay there, the second Los Ratones are back on the map, and the pressure through the bot side of the map, Baus can really find a very good pick. Like, Senkux is way too overextended, has the Seekers. How fast are you at pressing Zonia, Senkux?
Fastest
Oh no,
press
no,
in the
no,
West.
no,
He's
no, no,
resetting. Don't be
not
shopping.
there, not like
Don't be
that.
shopping. The high street stores are back in business, and Baus is looking to bring him down. Senkuk stays alive for a second or two, gets cast, looking to stay alive for a moment more, and that is it. Baus with the bush special. He learns from his former Fnatic companions there, who teach him the ways of their former team.
Yeah, great patience right there from Baus. Wait until the rest of Verdant had actually reset back up on the map, because they had to defend their waves, right? So he takes revenge by killing Senkux for a second time, actually, this game in a solo kill scenario. And 4th item will most likely be in his inventory the second he leaves the base. There you go. That is going to be the Leech Bane. And Los Ratones are going to start that one up. 25 more seconds for Senkux watching that grey screen in his face. And I don't think there is much fight right here for Verdant to try and take that step forward, I guess, to get anywhere near Baron.
Yeah, it's not happening, is it? They're going to lose the Baron. There'll be a reset coming on through. There's a minute and a half until Dragon, which you know Lost Returns will then be able to play for. But you can already see that Verdant are saying, screw it. We're getting as many wards down as we can in the enemy jungle. We want to make sure that we can try and contest this Dragon in some way, shape, or form. Problem is that Lost Returns said, fine, we're going to push this top side and try and at least get that turret before we reset and get even more gold in our back pockets.
And that's what's very scary right now. This Baron buff is going to last for as long as that dragon is dead. So when the dragon spawns, all these lanes will be pushed in by the Baron timer. And knowing Los Ratones, they're going to try to figure out a way, like a 1-3-1, some sort of way, to try and push down another inhibitor tower, or even that second inhibitor down the bottom of the map, which means a lot of minions are going to be raining into Verdant's base, and they somehow need to defend. So you're either going to throw it all away and try to get a pick right here to make it a 4 versus 5, or you're going to have to play defense mode for the next minute and a half.
There's some masks now in for Noodle and Reckless, interestingly as well, amping up his 2 AP solo lanes. We've got a lot of AP to be amped, so nice pick up there, and they have managed to get themselves into the river well. Of course, you have got the Maokai, so always able to cheat vision and damage, especially with an AP variant, by pressing E and throwing a sapling into a handy bush.
All right. Bot lane wave pushed. Los Ratones do what they've been doing the entire game. Push these waves, get aggressive vision. Everything has been swept from Los Ratones as well. That was inside their jungle. Very, very clever right there from the side of LR. And Obstinatus trying to get a knockup,
Here we go.
but
There's that Magnet Storm, but indeed, it's looking like that might be a very aggressive form of that connective. Noodle gets cast away, stays alive for a second. Senkux does not. Belly on the backside, Nemesis with the perfect execution, part 2. And unfortunately for Verdant, game 2 is looking like a done deal in favor of Lost Returns. They care not for the Dragon. They care for the end of the game. Baus will teleport down to the inhibitor in bot lane, and they will run these Baron-empowered minions straight to the Nexus, and a win in game 2.
a little bit of a longer game right here. A classic Los Ratones early game that brought us all the way here But this is going to be match point for Los Ratones. One more, and we will be seeing them in Copenhagen facing up against Ruddy Sack. And honestly, again, I just want to bring it all the way to the beginning of the day where we had so many questions about Baus, about Los Ratones, how they resolve the problems. Can Verdun stand up to them? And I have to say, I want to commend Verdun as well. From game 1 to game 2, very, very cleaned up early game. It's just not enough because they put everything into Shiganari's basket. Los Ratones has built the perfect draft to disrupt it all.
And I appreciate that the Lost Returns are still keeping to the things that make them them. You're looking at Baus finding these ridiculous plays on Gragas and coming up with crazy leads, but they've added a little bit more aggression. They've added a little bit more ability to make the go buttons happen. Reckless looking pretty good on those engaged champions now as well. It's a great moment. They even had Baus int into the fountain to end the game. Desk, take it from here.
Classic.
How do you deal with this game now for Verdun?
That's a must. If Baus is not dead at the end of the game, it was not a Los Ratones game. But looking into the beginning of it, it looked like Verdun got a few kills, 2 kills for each carry, just as Trouble said, like, oh, finally the kills out on the carries, but they couldn't maximize that lead now, could they?
No, those were some really good individual leads for Verdant, and the beginning of the game looked very promising. But the problem is, with game number 2, we pretty much went back into the Los Ratones comfort zone, where they're not afraid to lose lanes, because they don't lose them too much, and they know that the moment when they group up and start team fighting the enemy, they are going to be stronger than them.
Yeah, the big problem for me was more kind of after those opening couple of kills, you know, it felt like Verdun kept on letting these little wins kind of go the way of Los Ratones, right? I think about some of the times that Baus got to proxy, for example. Taeron really kind of like playing into his hands there instead of just kind of maybe proxying himself, right? Just eating the wave, just accept it. All right, cool, Baus gonna have a little bit of tempo on me. Not much I can really do here. Stuff like that really led to moments where, again, you know, around things like Herald, some of the mid game or just before the mid games kind of started dragons, sort of between, I think it was the 3rd dragon, I want to say, allowing Los Ratones to just kind of get skirmishes they shouldn't have, despite the leads that they had on Senkax and Shiganari. And yeah, again, it feels like another, maybe I'm just like, I'm very, what's the word right now? I wouldn't say burnt out, but blunt when it comes to watching games and seeing some of the mistakes get made. Verdun, it felt like, had a lot of what they needed to close out this game, but Nemesis constantly found backline access time and time again. Times where they could have picked him off, they couldn't quite catch him. That's just the slipperiness of Akali. And again, Verdun never really set themselves up for success with big bullet times, right? The setup isn't really huge. It's not consistent. They're not the ones with the Rel. They're the ones with the Rakan. They don't have the Jarvan. They've got the Maokai. Things like that, right? Those small differences also in draft. Not really enabling that Misfortune first pick to really strive and get going. And you can see in the gold difference, right, that it was a pretty good opening 12, 14-ish minutes for this Verdant side. But when push really came to shove, when the more important objectives on the map started to spawn up, it was just chip away after chip away after chip away. Baus getting away with Liberty, Crownie getting away with Liberty, everyone just kind of maybe doing a little bit more than they should be, biting off more than they can chew. But I guess, like, Verdant very happily just opened their mouth a little bit wider for them so they can swallow a bit more.
Honestly, that's exactly what they did, unfortunately, because on top of the fact that there wasn't enough setup for that Misfortune, Shiganari often found himself so open to an engage from Los Ratones when he was trying to go into the bullet time. Like on the first replay that we saw, it was just him right in the point where it's so easy for Los Ratones to jump onto him. And it's not just one-off situation. It happened over and over and over. And in the end, the carry that had been set up in the beginning of the game with having kills donated to him just couldn't play the game at all.
How do you play as Misfortune when you have the Akali, you have the Gragas played like that, Baus stepping up as well with this comfortable champion, and we've seen his champion pool increase as well. So as we go further into the cities, as we have the match point, it's not like LR are running out of options. It's quite the opposite. They have tons of it if you look into it. So as Verdant, what do you need to do to turn this around? Because it looks like not even Tom Cruise can find an answer.
Tom Cruise. I don't think. Yeah. All right. Yeah, it does feel like Mission Impossible. I'll bite. I don't know. I really don't know what to say at this point. I feel like, unfortunately, these first 2 games have potentially just demonstrated to us that Verdant maybe just don't have the discipline to close out or like extend leads that they've managed to acquire, and they're feeding into what would otherwise be bad habits and maybe punished by a team like Nord, or even punished like sometimes by a team like Ruddy. Not punishing them here enough, or again, feeding into play patterns that just suit Los Ratones, right? The comfort of giving over time and resources to Baus when he's doing proxy stuff. Things like that just really not helping their case right now in the series.
Well, that's an asset that Verdant. Tell me, Solari.
Just a thought here, because in game number 2
Bring
we
it
saw a
up.
glimpse of what Verdant can do, and we remember them
Yes.
being able to draft very well, looking at what the enemy is drafting against them. So what maybe we want to see from Verdant right now is them going with a draft that is going to take into account what Los Ratones are drafting, first of all, because I kind of was missing that in these 2 games, but second of all, have something that will feel comfortable in the early game, because that is where Los Ratones are historically at their weakest, but then still be able to hold consistent team fights, because that is where Verdant are losing to Los Ratones. But this is a lot of pieces of the puzzle to be collected together.
They only have one additional lifeline if they want to keep fighting for their spot towards Copenhagen. If they don't, Los Ratones will get this clean sweep 3-0 and move into Copenhagen League's Disrupt. With that in mind, let's see what the answer is as soon as we wait for the 3rd champion select. I'll see you soon. Match point for Los Ratones. This will be the third one. This will be the clean sweep if Verdant can't find an answer. And apparently, the beginning of the sentence towards the answer is picking the red side and trying to go for a counter pick instead of them trying to provoke LR with the team composition. Draft will come in as soon as possible. Don't worry, this is going to be interesting. What could be the answer, Jamaat and Salati?
I don't know. I'm gonna just be very candid about this. This red side selection feels like a cry for help.
Ooh.
I'm not sure what you can really achieve from selecting red other than, you know, trying to pretty much bring out a game-changing pick. My problem on R5, my problem is historically teams just don't do it particularly well. So that's my major concern. Let's see how the bans actually lie here for Verdant, whether or not they're going to stay targeted or very, you know, standard. We've been a little bit disappointed overall in their ban phase, especially the opening three so far this series. It does feel a little bit too broad, like untargeted at times. Whereas Los Tronas, it just feels like they get to do the standard stuff, and there's not really much stress on that. As let's see what we end up with. It's actually a missed ban, so we'll get confirmation whether or not that's like a client bug or if that's a
it's a missed ban
issue. Yeah, it looks like a missed ban. Someone probably, it's not uncommon that when you're on TR you can't ban. Happens very, very frequently. I'm sure we'll get Champ Select back underway as soon as possible. But yeah, Jace the only thing locked right now.
You can't afford not banning a champion if you're on Verdant side. That Azir, that, you know, like, it has to be gone. It has to be gone. As we wait for the champion select to be redone, as it was an issue, as we are able to jump as soon as possible. Don't worry. For LR should be the same, right? Like, it should be the Jace, it should be the Ramble, should be taking away that power from Titan. Yes, as well. There you go.
Yeah.
We're coming back.
Yeah. So probably for Los Ratones stage, would be the same, because there are still those same champions that I want to see, especially the lane bullies for Tyrion on the top lane, because Tyrion, if he's set ahead on the lane, he can do quite a lot. We have seen how potent of a player he is, and on top of that, there is going to be an additional problem for Los Ratones, because if Baus is way too far behind on a champion that doesn't allow for that, so for example like Cyan, who is already gone, Cho got gone from the game 1 as well, this is going to be a problem for Los Ratones to find a good use for Baus then. So it is understandable why they're sticking to those bans, but I like that little addition there, because we looked at Ivern, and we talked already today about how Verdant were able to pull off the Ivern full noodle in their series versus Bulldog, and Los Ratones decided they don't want that shielding power for Verdant.
No, so that will change things up. Pantheon still up and available. Rumble as well. Looks like that's going to be left up, both those champions for Los Ratones. So likely looking for a trade. I would anticipate that they're actually looking for the Pantheon. So if I was Verdant, I'd feel maybe a little more, you know, happy to remove that.
Yeah.
If they end up taking Poppy, so be it. The Galio is also up, so I think that's the preemptive pick, right, for Baus. Secure Baus as champion. It obviously also works as a flex. So now this is like a kind of waving to Tyron saying, hey, like, Rumble's up, you can take it if you want, but you know it's likely just then going to be, you know, into that Galio straight away. I wonder how that's going to change things. If that's just going to mean, for Verdant, they hold on to R5 for Tyron, or if they're actually just going to kind of swap things around, look towards somewhere else. They take the Ambessa pickup, which I don't know how much I like. The Sejuani is obviously very good with the jungle pool the way it is. I wonder if Nemesis kind of just ends up taking the Galio even blind here with this situation. And then they take Baus's volley bet. That could like be a very, very valuable thing here. Galio can't lane into AD champs. Like, it sucks. We even saw Chovy do this. I think it was actually just against HLE very recently. Even the last series of the series before took Renekton into Galio in the mid lane, and it was horrible, as Velia is eyeing up that Trundle pick. Old school counter into that Sejuani.
There is the world in which Verdant right now go with this Ambessa Sejuani, and they don't pick AP for Senkax on the mid lane, but they go with something AD Yone style. First of all, to make sure there is more synergies for Sejuani to work around, and second of all, to make sure that this Galio now has a really weird situation as to where do I go, because in top lane there is not a good matchup, in mid lane pretty much as well, and then Verdant can decide to put something like AP Shiganari on the bot lane. I think Silas or is
maybe
the way Silas.
To go, despite all that.
I like Silas here.
you take the Galio ult,
Yeah.
the Trundle ult is
The
always going to be
Trundle
kind of
ult.
useful. Plus, you get the AP scalings, don't forget, out of that ult, which kind of makes it a bit of a nuke. You'd be surprised how much damage you end up squeezing out of that. So now for bans, I would just anticipate that it's, you know, reckless support bans, right? Something like the Renata. They're actually still going to cover for topside with at least one bounce ban here. I am very curious about what Reckless is going to want to pair with this Kai'Sa though, because a lot of his like predominant kind of go-in champs are out. The Leona is kind of the only one I would imagine he should be able to pilot that we haven't seen so far this year out of him. But you lock in the Leona, you give that ultimate over to Senkux, and that's just another powerful engage tool you don't want to deal with. Couldn't call out the Leona and take it away themselves. So curious now about what this support matchup is actually going to end up looking like.
Yeah, there's not much. Yeah, there is Braum or there is Renata left for Ruckus. There's also Janna, but that does not look like a game for Janna at the moment. I mean, there is some decent amount of engage from Verdant's side, so you could work around the disengage support on the bot lane. It's just, it's not something that Crowny will be happy with.
Aphelios, wow. So Lulu Aphelios, I guess, maybe is the likely call here for Verdant. That's going to be really interesting to see. The range right now of Lost Return is very, very short, so I don't hate it. Like, I don't hate it at all. Though the engage tool, additional engage tool of, hey, like Nico coming in would be huge here for Verdant. Sorry, for Lost Returns.
Yeah.
Just because, again, getting onto the backline, massive. It does give it over to Silas, but at the end of the day, I think you can still be happy if you end up finding those high-value targets in the backline.
Yeah, there is already so much given to Silas that it feels like adding additional big ultimate on top of that doesn't really change things too much. It's harder for the time thing, but okay, so we're talking about probably Galio Nemesis on the mid lane. Oh, come on. No. Okay.
It makes sense. It makes
I
sense.
mean,
Like,
it makes sense. It's just
It had to be the Thresh, yeah. It had to be.
D5.
Yeah, you need to protect that you don't have the Gale Force yet. You no longer have the Gale Force. You need to protect him. You need to give him a lantern. You need a sliver of
That is-
hope, a light.
very, very old school, you know, pairing. When the Aphelios first came out, the Thresh was very, very, very good at just kind of providing what it needs to with the Lantern. I think especially against the Trundle Pillar, it's going to be great. I do worry about its ability to, you know, protect Aphelios from the Vi and the Galio and the Nico, but I guess we'll have to see how much work Obstinatus is going to have his cut out for him as Verdant. Match point, backs against the wall. Needs to be something special, and they've backed out the Thresh Aphelios in the bot lane.
Love the worlds where Vi is the top laner and Trundle is the jungler. So this could be it. Solari and Jamada. Name tags off. Where do you land?
Oh, name tags off. That is so much more difficult because I feel like both teams cooked a lot this time, and I love the Sejuani with so many melee combinations on the side of Verdant. But Los Ratones have cooked so much because they can work around their ultimates, but also even without ultimates available, there is so many different synergies between all these characters. I think Los Ratones should take game number 3.
I think the X factor here is Senkux and how he's really going to get a lot of the usage out of the
Silas,
ults that he's got available to steal, and what Shigenari can potentially do with that space. But I'm looking at Senkux first and foremost. He's had a really quiet series so far. He needs to have a banger game 3.
Silas with Nico, I think that could be the key because he can engage that really fast. But if you don't know how to count minions, maybe LR will be able to count to 3 and win this one, moving to Copenhagen. I know we're going to toss it to the casters, initialize in trouble. What do you have to say about this draft?
Sejuani and double melee synergies at 2023 and his OMG on the Rift. Where have I seen this style before? But I love what you were calling out there on the desk as well. I know Georgia was saying to me in my ear as well. Aphelios is fun and all, but we haven't seen him as much because he doesn't have Gale Force anymore, and that makes him a lot trickier to play.
Man, this champion feels so miserable because they just took away that one mobility thing that he had, right?
I
The one
know.
thing that could give him those big wombo combos like the huge moonlight visions with the Gale Force forward. We're talking about forward. Noodle might be too far forward.
They are going to have to back away very fast there. Senkux, they need to run away as well. Everyone's still on a flank angle. Look at me. I think he just spotted it a little bit. They'll step in and throw down some wards. Bao stepping on forwards again regardless. They'll throw out an abduct, and that's the end of it. Nice invade for the ward, though, nonetheless.
All right, so let's chat a little bit about those compositions, because even though Sejuani is very happy to have a lot of melee champions around her, I feel like composition-wise, Los Ratones are chilling. I love the fact that the Nico got paired up with Kai'Sa, because it really does disguise the few things that Kai'Sa really struggles with in lane, which is her short range into any AD carry that has longer range or poke faster, which is pretty much any AD carry in the meta right now. But Nico does disguise that because it helps her push down that bot lane, and you never really have priority lanes with Kai'Sa, especially with melee supports, right? And then secondly, like, Los Ratones comp just makes so much sense. One person will choose to dive, everyone can pile up on top of that target. If Shiganari could not play the game previously, you had to be careful. How can you be careful if a Vi R? He just instantly stun locked you.
Very tricky indeed. And again, yes, you've got the Lantern. Yes, you've got kind of fake frontline in the sense that Silas can step on forwards with the Sejuani, with the Ambassador, and buy space by kind of full contact League of Legends, right? You just dive the divers on your own front and try and give space by just engaging really, really hard. But it's going to be a tricky old game for Shiganari. However confident and comfortable he is on the Aphelios, is a long-term comfort champion for him from way back when it first released. Had a lot of success on it then, but a lot of AD carry players did, and no one's really playing it however successful they've been on him. So it's a bold call, to say the least.
Yeah, and I want to say right here, because both of these junglers are pathing towards the bottom of the map. However, that is a triple lane priority for Velia right here. You see them walking actually super aggressively towards the Gromp of Noodle inside his jungle. He actually had Reckless with him for a second right there. They're going to drop down the wave pretty deep, and they're just going to stay towards the bottom of the map, which means that Noodle is going to have to 180, go towards the top side, which is the safest for him right now, as Velia is going to... Oh no. He's just going to camp that bush, trying to stop Shiganari from walking back the tower.
Does it finally have that level 2, switches weapons, gets a little bit of safety back, actually does get that dark passage back to safety, can look potentially for the Binding Eclipse, gets the flay back, now Velia's in danger, they can turn it around, Moonshot! Not required, just an auto is enough, and they turn it all around.
Again, reminder of game number 2. That's exactly what happened. Los Ratones overstay their welcome, they fail a dive, and Verdant bite back. That's 1 kill onto that Aphelios. And mind you, it's not like a misfortune. Like, Aphelios does still scale pretty massively into the late game. It's just a case of, can he stand still now that he doesn't have the Gale Force to output that damage for himself, right? But so far, so good. It was a trade of flashes right there. Velia's flash for Shiganari's flash. And so far, he came out in favor of...
Work from them. They find themselves in a pretty good position here early, in a way they might not have been if things had gone a little awry. Noodle turns up at the right moment, and they managed to get an early kill on the first, which was going to be a necessity to play this game out. Why the top side bounce back on his Vi, gets a big chunk onto Theron. Will be very obnoxious. We know he builds crit on this champion. We know exactly how he likes to play it, and it is pretty silly to witness when you're used to just Sundered Sky and Bruiser builds.
Oh, they're looking for Nemesis here.
Remember, it is Sejuani and Silas, so that passive pairing in terms of getting the melee synergy on the permafrost can get really difficult to manage. Nemesis has got a flash. Velia's coming on, flashes away from the Abduct. Vela comes down, pushes Senkux away from Noodle. Flash for the chomp, Senkux in danger. Flash on forward from Bounce with the Vault Breaker. When does Senkux have his own abscond Abduct? Gets out to safety, a lot of summoners blown, but no one dies.
Yeah, that was 4 flashes in this particular skirmish that was the top side of the map. I was actually wondering right there, because if Noodle ignored that mid lane gank, that would have been 3 out of 3 games that he would have double scuttled Velia in this series. It's not quite going to be the case. He does take that flash, though, off of the Trundle and the Galio, so let's see if there's going to be a return gank from actually either of the two, right? Trundle is a little bit more of a simplified champion, not so much of a 2025 champion, if you will. He does need setup from his lanes, but if you're looking at the level 6, there definitely is a bunch of it. Nico down the bot lane, ultimate from the Vi over the top side of the map. Talking about it.
The best to make this one a bit messy is Terran. Gets hit with that Vault Breaker, gets to back away, is alright for now. Baus not overplaying there, but is still up a decent amount here in the early lane. Has managed to get a good shove, get that roam down towards the scuffle between the mid jungles and help turn that around. With another early game where Verdant have at least managed to punch first, even if the gold is pretty much even. Velia at the level 4 mark. Again, looking at an early dragon. He's been known to do that once or twice. Instead, now turns towards bot side. Obstinata's low, misses the death sentence. And that can make this very interesting indeed. The pillar comes on down. And the pillar of filth, of course, on traditional Trundle. There's a flash there from the Thresh.
Yeah, and you can see the difference right here, right? With a Nico together with Kai'Sa. Crowny and Reckless have had a perma push down that bot lane, which means that whenever Velia steps into this river over on the bot side of the map, he feels pretty confident that he does have the backup of his lanes right there. Not quite the case. Again, I feel like both of the junglers have been dipping in and out of trying to gank and get things going onto the map. And of course, since they're both a more quote-unquote facilitating champions, this is what you're looking for. Their impression in that early game, and so far so good. There's a bunch of summoners blown, and with the Void Grub spawning in about 50 seconds time, I'm expecting a lot of those to get exploited very soon.
That is going to be something we have our eyes on at the very least. Very soon is the operative words. We've said that once or twice, and then it's kind of gone off the rails, hasn't it? We had that game 1 in particular was an absolute bloodbath. A little more stable in game 2. Obstinata's being run out here by Velu. He's a lot faster on that frozen domain. In comes the W as well. Flash on forward from Reckless. Gets that Tangle Barb boot. The death sentence is decent enough. Can look to bring in a Galio, though. Keeps him alive. Knock up there, of course, as it's the villain's entrance, not the hero's entrance. It was a stolen one.
Sengax right there trying to protect Obstinatus, but with Dragon up and available, Verdant is going to focus on that as Verdant are focusing on Baus.
In comes the Permafrost and the Glacial Prison, and Tayron will say, you do not pass go and you do not pick up 350 gold.
That's a kill over to Tayron Zambesa, which I'm going to be very honest with you. I feel like Tayron has really been struggling in this matchup versus Bao, so get him just a little bit ahead onto this Zambesa. He's a little bit freeing for him, I guess, over in the laning phase. Let's see how he chooses to translate that as Nemesis just walks up, Qs, steals one Void Grub. No +1 tick on the, I forgot what it's called, but the feature rank of the neutral objectives. You'll probably know this,
you do actually get it for you. It's the objective marker, but yeah, no,
you got 2 actually. True.
You do get 2. Now, actually, also they get a kill on the other side as Velia tried to cross map and gets punished by the death sentence into the Severum Crescendum combo. Aphelios now at 2-0.
I don't know if we'll have a replay off of this, but I'm not sure what really happened there. Was Velia trying to take the Crump and he got caught? And if that's the case, where was Crowny and Reckless? We'll have to watch this one more time if we do have that replay. However, that is a second kill onto Shiganari now, and it's given a little bit deja vu of last game. Oh, okay. They catch him over the wall. This was already warded. And just take him down while Reckless and Crowny were trying to push in for that wave. Very, very clever warding right there from the side of Verdant to spot Velia as they were making a play on the top side of the map.
Well then, this gets interesting, doesn't it? I need to look for the Pot Blossom's the wrong term. Blooming Burst, that's the name of Nico Q. Took me a second or two. And they find themselves with a slight discrepancy here in the kills, a slight discrepancy here in some of the objectives they would have liked to have picked up, and Lost Return still even enough in the gold. But it's an early game that has actually managed to not see this Aphelios put in the dirt, which we're both worried about happening. Team fight's still going to be hard, but hey, if the Aphelios was ever going to work, this is the way it was going to be. The moment we say that, Cease and Desist comes on down. In comes the Galio, though, alongside, of course, that death sentence, and of course, the Dark Passage, as I get my abilities the wrong way around. Either way, Shiganari gets out alive.
Yeah, I feel like Obstinatus is going to have to be very, very on point with when that lantern drops, because there is a lot of CC on the side of Los Ratones, so if they do chain it up, it's going to be really difficult for Shiganari to even click that lantern. So Obstinatus has a really, really tough role of keeping his AD carry alive from every single threat that can literally dive up on top of this Aphelios. But so far, so good. Shiganari very, very close to that first item. He's got his first 2 kills. The Plento was at the top of the map. They managed to rotate over the Los Ratones bot lane as well. And they have Noodle around, scouting a little bit on the top side of that jungle. So far, so good for Verdant. Nothing extraordinary, but at the end of the day, they're playing for a scaling composition. They're playing for late game team fights, and they found Velia.
Another death sentence, and that'll be the Permafrost stacking as well. These picks have been brutal. In comes Nemesis, but alongside comes in with a Dark Passage assisted Pot Blossom. In comes the Moonlight Vigil, and a second one's picked up. Doesn't even need to use the Binding Eclipse. They get a double on to Shiganari. This Aphelios is well and truly online.
Absolutely. 4-0, even a bounty on top of his head. This sort of let's play around the 80 carry composition seems to be working so well for Verdant, even though a little bit unorthodox in terms of it's an Aphelios, and we don't necessarily see that champion very often as a Obstinatus tries his luck.
Right.
Oh!
Pop Blossom comes on down, flash out from Chronic, but it's still a binding eclipse. Looks to cleanse and flash out. Uses the ult too. Gets to stay safe. TP's beginning to fly. Nemesis looking for the shield of Duran. Torn onto the front line, and Senkuk's TP'd at a half HP and just gets melted.
Hold on a minute. We talked about a 4-0 on Aphelios, but he hasn't cashed in yet. He doesn't have any more items in his inventory, which means he's dead even with the rest of Los Ratones are looking for even more. But this should just most certainly be the case. There's not a lot of mana in Obstinatus champion or Shigenari's champ right there. A little bit overforced, but they get out. Yeah.
Another back interrupted though, and they're getting increasingly annoying. And yes, Verdant, some good moments here. Phosphotone's no slouch and no stranger to having to come back from slightly fumbled early game plays. Crowny's going to get a wave crash, get 2 plays. But look at this replay, because it was a whole thing, Georgia.
Yeah, we see Obstinatus going in, and then you've got Senkux following through, but then Crowny gets to ult the other way, and it's like, if you don't chain your CC properly all around, it's just very difficult, and Senkux just TPs in the middle of nowhere, pretty much. Well, actually, not in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of Los Ratones, as the play had already concluded.
That was very much the enemy base.
Yeah. He wishes he had TP'd in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I was hoping a little more distance. Danger close is one thing, but that's ridiculous either way. Hill back, all the while Shigenari has now reset at least and managed to pick himself up that first time, gone towards the Collector. Often a nice pickup for the Aphelios who likes his lethality and that ability to get some burst combos. That's that sentence. Inches off hitting Noodle though on a flank angle. Gonna try and find a way to turn it around as they go in with that cease and desist, and Obstinatus just dies. The flank is turned into a bit of an awkward sit there and watch their player die. Reckless looking for a blooming burst onto Noodle, who has to sort of back away. Dragon has spawned, and without the support, the man advantage gives LR the opportunity to start it up.
Yeah, Thresh is a pseudo-tanky champion. You can't really be face-checking. If you get caught, you're going to go down really quickly. They showcased that right there and then from the side of Los Ratones. And the fact that they had a numbers advantage on the map means that this is a pretty free second Dragon for the side of LR. And even though the Trundle is 0 and 3, I will say, I don't think this is necessarily very problematic. That Trundle is primarily there to stop the retreat from that Aphelios and to shred defenses off of that Sejuani. Once he does these two, his job is pretty much concluded as Obstinatus. Can't quite stop the recall right there.
It was a clone all along.
Oh, it was a clone. It was a clone. Okay, you know what? Nico really confuses me, man.
Nah.
It's like, oh, there's 2 Kaisers on the map. Oh, there's 2 Trundles. Oh, look, he didn't cancel the back. There was no back. It was Nico. Oh, okay, cool.
I'm sensing a slight amount of rage. How many times have you been caught out by a Nico roam mid? Just out of interest.
No, actually none. I think it's all casting related. It's like
genuinely true though. It's very tilted. You look down the mid. Which one's Kaiser? Which one's Nico?
Yeah, it's like you see the AD carry walking mid, and you're like, wait, they actually put Victor bot, and it's like, no, you're an idiot. They didn't put Victor bot. It's a Nico. Open your eyes.
Well, yeah,
I'm an idiot.
We tried. I tried. Yeah, I mean that too. Like we're both not. You know, we could be smarter about these things. Either way, Tyrion eats a little bit of the denting blows and the relentless force from the Vi, who goes back in, doesn't quite hit that Q, and the turnaround comes through with the cunning swipe and the sundering slam. Trundle on a wraparound though, might look for the dive. Tyrion going to try and start Dracount stepping away. Out comes the pillar. Subjugate down as well. Public execution onto nothing and no one. Doesn't quite go down, but is forced to reset here a little awkwardly. The turret is going to be picked up surely by Baus as a result.
Yeah, Los Ratones are trying to play away from Shigenari's Aphelios right now, which is very wise. Try to isolate side lanes, take down Tyrion on the Ambessa. Didn't end up getting his flash either. However, they're going to trade the neutral objective with the structure over on the bottom of the map as Baus takes that top lane, bot lane, sorry, tier 1 tower for Los Ratones. And pretty much that even in terms of the exchange right there. Let's see how Verdant is actually going to choose to utilize that Rift Herald to try and gain some control on the map. Again, it's going to be so important to have wards ahead of time for the sort of Verdant when they go into neutral objectives. It has been a little bit of a hit or a miss for them getting onto these neutral objectives. And with a 4-0 Aphelios, you definitely don't want to be stepping into fog of war.
No, you don't. You can't be the face checker. You have to be allowed to hit your buttons appropriately. If you can get a good Moonlight Vigil, you can get big combo with your abilities and get some of those free weapon switches. You can find some moments, but this will keep happening on the side lane. In goes Bao's. Crownie follows with a killer instinct. And that instinct was correct. Tayron finds himself in a 30-second grave.
Yeah, Verdant are going to use the Rift Herald right now. Use the numbers advantage that they have on the map, at least for the time being, to take that mid lane tier 1 tower.
Nice little flash to interrupt the Justice Punch. Flashing on forward from Noodle. Going to get the Permafrost down. Pop Blossom in response, though. Velia turning up. Trying to turn it around with the Hero's Entrance, but there's a dark passage out to safety. Faust now hunting. Has got flash to work with. Can look for something more. Cooldown's not that long. Speedy at this point with the tier 2 boots. Looking for another Q. Mega Blast Cone. Just out to safety. Flash not quite enough to get in range, but Noodle now split off from his team. Turret was secured all the while. There's another dark passage. Can Noodle get to it, or is it going to get body blocked? Not quite enough. Turnaround, they've stolen Velia's ult. The Subjugate could be valuable here. And that Verdant actually do a good job of extracting the skulls. Well, we'll know Shiganari has died. Faust in danger. Needs to try and back away here a little bit. Looking to go on forward. Straight down step into the public execution. He's overstepped. He will die now. Surely no way out for the Vi. And Lost Returns lose their top laner, even if he buys a second or two more.
Yeah, that was one of the longest plays in history as Los Ratones take advantage of all the chaos going on the tops of the map and majority of Verdant, not majority, well, the whole of Verdant being stuck on the tops of the map trying to take Baus down and do what Los Ratones do best. Use Baus' deaths to their own advantage. Second tower in the mid lane is going to go down for Los Ratones. And overall, a pretty net positive play for the side of LR right here. They lose their top laner. They do take a bit more control over in the mid lane. And again, I feel like playing towards those side lanes, punishing Tayron, taking him down, making it a numbers advantage on the map has pretty much benefited them a lot. But right now that they have Shiganari's flash, they can actually really leverage the fact that he's playing a pretty mobile carry. Now, Reckless will find the backline, but the problem right here is that there is no one else to follow up on that. By the time Nemesis is there, Shiganari gets bailed out by Obsinatus and the Lantern, right? And the chase begins. I wish we could play like this funny music. That'll probably be a copyright right there. Velia will find Shiganari in the end and kill him, but it was just a constant back and forth. TP's coming in, Shiganari's gonna die in the end from the ultimate, and then Baus is too far forward, ends up falling as well. So overall, a 1-for-1, but Los Ratones redeemed that by taking that mid lane tier 2 tower.
All the while, though, Verdant have to reset. Now come back out onto the Rift. Forget to pick up this dragon. Well, at least start to. TPs begin to fly. We are getting a bit of a fracas on the board. Baus on a flank angle. Didn't come on in. Nemesis as well. Going to be spotted out as they try to turn on the Galio. Turning to pick him up. All the while on the other side. Tayron and Obstinatus finds space with the box. In comes the Galio Hero's Entrance. Dragon secured. But they're going to turn it around now onto Velia. All the while, though, Crownie onto the backside. For Killer Instinct. He gets the double. The Moonlight Vigil. Shiganari takes a few back with him. They can't quite finish up. But wait, what about the turnaround? The cease and desist stops Tayron from claiming the lives he so desperately wanted to claim. It's Crownie with the triple. He remains untouched.
He played that flawlessly, dived into the backline, found the key targets, and again, you see how miserable it is to play Aphelios now that Gale Force is no longer a thing. He has a fantastic multi-man splash hold, and it just doesn't matter. And I like what Verdant's not doing here. You take the Galio out of the equation, it means that he's not going to be useful enough in terms of like diving into the backline and causing stress for your team. But Noodle dies to Crownie, then they separate them. Fantastic multi-man ult right there from Shiganari, but it's not enough. He flashes in to finish them off, but he unfortunately does not have enough damage to do that. Gets interrupted. A triple kill for Crownie right there, who dived into the backline to assassinate the rest of the team.
Another auto and the Collector starts flying there. He had so many chakrams swirling around him. Can't quite do it. And despite the flashy plays on Shiganari, it's Crownie who now sits 1,500 gold ahead. He's got 2 items on this Kai'Sa and has navigated these team fights really, really well. He's going to be a continual threat. Lost Returns now find themselves at Soul Point. They've got the Feats of Strength. They've got themselves a significant gold lead here now as well. Now at the 20-minute mark, they can look towards things like Attica and wait a few minutes for Dragon into Baron. It's looking pretty difficult here for Verdant for all. There's been a moment or two on screen at least where it's felt like they had some options.
Yeah, and Atakan is being started right here, as you rightfully mentioned, full members of Verdant, but no one's really getting anywhere near. They do not have vision. They would be face checking, and that could be GG right here if you face check one too many times. Now, of course, I wanted to point out that even though they did their best from the side of Verdant to get those kills onto Aphelios, Crowny has found his way back in. All those tower platings, the side lane towers, constant gank on the side lanes, 4-0-3 on the castle, 1.4k up, 2 items, over 1.5 for Aphelios, and unless that Infinity Edge comes through, we need a 3rd item on Aphelios as well. Usually when we're talking about like on-hit 80 carries, 3 items is that very, very sweet spot that you want to have them at. However, Shiganari is going to be at that 2-item spot right here, and I think Verdant are really, really hoping that they can slow down the game. Talking about slowing down the game, though, those Ratonas are on soul point, so in 2.5 minutes, you're definitely not going to have 3 items on that Aphelios.
And you're going pick CC into a Chem Soul, which will give you tenacity, those wonderful things. Gonna try and turn around to the bounce, you just take a fair amount of damage into the Stolen Seasons assist. He gets so much back, though. Senkox has to flash away. Noodle now in danger. He's turned into his namesake. He's dinner. Down goes Senkox as well, who is cut down in his... I'm not even sure it's prime at this point, really, is it? In this game, 1 and 3 on the Silas, having a rough old time. Crowdy with the killer instinct, looking for the orders. Taylor tries to get something with the Drake House up and just can't do it. Faust debating going forward. Of course he does. It's another good Moonlight Vigil. He'll get 1 back with Shiganari, but the fireworks mean nothing. It's a festival for Lost Ratones.
He gets 2 in the end, but it's an ace for Lost Ratones, and right here, they're gonna get to push that bot lane tower. I'm thinking that... I thought that we're gonna TP back right here, but let's watch one more time what happened. They do find Baus, but Lost Ratones are like Avengers. They just literally assemble in milliseconds. Everyone runs in. Fantastic double knock-up from Reckless, and it's going to be... We're back from the replay. It's going to be the tower going down for Lost Ratones over on the bot side of the map.
3rd item just done for Crowny, who has died, interestingly worth noting, of course, got picked up by Shiganari at the very end of that. 7 and 3, doing his best to still be relevant here. Unfortunately, the rest of the map, significant ways behind this Trundle, despite the 0 and 3 start. It's now 3, 3 and 6, 2k up. It's not getting easy to play this game right now. See whether they can play this one out. As Dragon spawns in 50 seconds, Shiganari trying to claim as much gold as he can. I wonder how close he is to that 3rd item completion. Can't be far off, one would imagine.
I'm thinking right here with the 2 shutdowns that Shiganari got, reminder that he was 1.6k down, and now he's about 700 gold, which means that he got a good part of 1,000 gold in his pocket from that previous fight. He must be really, really close, but not 20 seconds close. And Verdant, again, they have been struggling in finding their ways into those neutral objectives. There's no easy way to face check. Noodle's going to have to do it for them as Faust is looking for Shiganari.
He goes the distance. In comes the hero's entrance, and Galio brings the pain. They'll pick up absolutely everyone in the mid lane. It's Noodle and Senkox alone, trying to clear the wave desperately to hold on to the game. And Lost Ratones will be having none of that. A triple over to Velia.
And you just see how simple it is. No mobility, no flash, no barrier. Press R, stun him into place. Everyone dives in. Shiganari dead. He's the whole damage from the side of Verdant. He was the last choice of damage, and he is down. And Lost Ratones are taking everything in that base.
10 seconds to go, and Lost Ratones have decided they've had not quite enough. They'll take a Nexus turret and then go back towards the inhibitors. A little umming and ahhing there. They'll have the base critically broken, but they can turn for soul. They'll play it slow. No mistakes. No mess. Just ruthless efficiency for now. TP's coming in. Verdant want to play them on the reset. Have they spent too long here? Maybe I overspoke. Now Nemesis in danger. Throws out the shield of Duran. Senkox looking for an angle. Gets into the backside. But he's very alone. Needs to start backing away from the execution. But it's only onto the Baus, who just does not give a damn right now. Permafrost not fully stacked. The Moonlight Vigil not quite enough to bring down Reckless. It was close, but not enough. In comes the Void Seeker. Crowny has 3 seconds on his ult. You can see what he's thinking. He's got mana. Can he consider an ult in? It would be bold. But it is Crowny. He's feeling strong. The W's keep landing. That's finally one that misses, and he won't press the trigger.
And you would expect that this would be the perfect timing for Verdant to fight. Lost Ratones had not had their backs. They hadn't had their resets. They hadn't gotten the extra gold in their pockets translated into items yet. So I really commend Verdant for trying to get that aggression through. You grab 3-4 kills, you grab Baron, you could turn the game around. Not quite the case. It ends up being Soul for the set of Lost Ratonas. And let's watch this one more time. It's as simple as press R and everyone piles on top. Crowny will dive into the backline. You see Nemesis flying through. I mean, it's as simple as that, right? You don't have mobility, you don't have a flash, you're sitting duck, and what better than an ultimate that is a point and click follow stun like Vice to pin you down.
This is not a naked Vi, as you like to call it. She has a full mecha transformation sequence as Galio comes flying in from the heavens to support her. And that's not including the Kai'Sa, or, of course, the likes of this Nico as well, who's often been followed with the Pop Blossoms. It's been very easy to coordinate that combo together, and it's led Lost Ratones to a very healthy lead. This game is all but over. That lady may not have sung yet, but she has warmed up and she's done her rehearsal. She's just waiting for that last moment on stage.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're never going to get the coulda, woulda, shouldas right here. 3 items on Shiganari. And let's see if that's going to matter, right? That's an 11,000 gold lead on the set of Los Ratones. They are burned up. They're pushing in the waves. Baus, I think he's alone. He's not really alone. He's got 2 more friends on the bottom map. 3, actually. Make that 3 more friends. And Nemesis on the side, ready to ult at any time.
The play on to Velia, but how much that really matters? Shiganari, the best weapons here as a combo. Decent wave clear with the ranged autos on Calibrum. The Void Seeker just shied there. Thinking about a Q forwards. Of course he is. And the thing is, any other player say, nah, they wouldn't go for that. But it's Baus. And therefore, he actually might. So I have to keep an eye on it.
Hey, man, if you have a Kai'Sa and a Galio diving in with you, I mean, I guess that's a risk you're willing to take, especially with, like, 11,000 gold in the lead right here. They are looking again for Shiganari. He's playing very safe. Still no flash.
The wallets have turned into the whole damn vault. Vi, quite known for breaking those. Just press Q once or twice. In comes the Glacial Prison. It's nice, but there's just no follow-up. It's only onto Reckless. Not the most valuable target. Shooting Duran onto the front line. Obstinatus flashes away on the thresh. In goes Reckless. Pop Blossom on 3. Crowdy follows. They try and buy some time. The villain's entrance is followed by the hero's rebuttal. They'll keep throwing out the Acathian rain, and they know what they say about that. When it rains, it pours. Verdant will be absolutely annihilated. 3-0 for Lost Ratones. And Denmark, check your harbors, check your ships. They're full of rats. Lost Ratones are heading to finals.
Los Ratones gave a heart attack to their fans, losing to Nord, falling into the lower bracket. But guess what? It was all done for content. It was all done for you guys. So you get 2 more whole series. Well, 3 with the lower bracket final that they're about to play. For your eye pleasure only. Of course, commiserations to Verdant. Pretty valiant effort, but they run into a wall of rats. And who are you going to favor? 1 Verdant or a million rats? I don't know. I'll favor the million rats.
Suddenly hear the cries of XDD. What's the world, it feels like, at this point. A great series from Lost Ratones. And we asked whether they'd find some recovery, whether they managed to come back from what was a difficult loss in the upper bracket. And the answer was yes, they have. And, you know, credit over to Verdant, as I said. They have pushed really hard in this playoffs.
All right.
All right, Trouble.
Yeah.
Going back into the desk, it's a 3-0 clean sweep from Los Ratones. I gotta say, this third game looked even better. I think the beginning of it, we had some signs of Shiganari with the Aphelios. Jamada, you brought it up. People are not used to this champion anymore. This could get dangerous if he gets spoon-fed. And he was. 4 kills in a row.
Yeah, I mean, he was 4-0 by, you know, maybe 10 minutes or so. It really didn't take a lot of time for the Aphelios to get rolling, but the unfortunate fact of the matter is that Vi pick, you know, at the very end for Los Ratones, if you rack your brains back, or maybe you know haven't been watching League of Legends for that long, when Aphelios was in meta, and that's like almost a true statement for some people, unfortunately, you know, when Aphelios first came in, one of the crucial picks at dealing with the Aphelios was the vibe, because then it was so easy to pile on additional engage, and you saw it many times throughout. But this was probably the pivotal fight. The Aphelios is fed. He's really fed. The Infernal is huge, but then this push forward, it's just, you understand why he's in this mindset. He needs to carry. They're still clumped up. He's got the Infernum Q if he can spread it and just about get enough damage out. You know, that's maybe that's a highlight reel. It's a montage moment, right? But you do it, it falls, you know, the wheels fall off, and it looks silly in post. And that's just the unfortunate way that, from that point on, Verdant really didn't have much a leg to stand on, because it felt as though they were never quite in sync or necessarily assigning themselves in lanes that would really stop Los Ratones from easily picking off either Shiganari or Senkux. And when they looked for plays, it was onto people like Baus, who always had Galio cover support.
Yeah, and who refused to die on top of that. But yeah, the Galio support and the Reckless support on top of that, like, what you love seeing from Los Ratones in this game is the fact that they were so quick to pick up whenever a fight was happening, and they would be very quick to join in, which is something you want to see from Verdant, but unfortunately it was playing against them to this extent here, because once the big fights start happening and once they're easily for Los Ratones and they start accelerating, what happens in the game is for Los Ratones, if anybody starts the fight, there is 3-4 follow-ups immediately available that are from pretty high distance, so Los Ratones are very quick to react. For Verdant, what happens is, apart from specific weapon combinations for affiliates, they don't have any range in their comp whatsoever, so they need to all stick together, which plays against them, because if you're all together, what happens is Nami is jumping onto you, knocking you up, Reckless is jumping onto you, knocking you all up, Baus is jumping onto somebody on your backlane like Affiliates who wants to save Bot, knocking you up, and you never get out of this control.
It just feels so unplayable.
Yeah.
You know, as Aphelios, if you don't have, you know, immediate lantern, if you don't have, I don't know, it just doesn't really feel like there's anything you can do in that kind of circumstance. The Nico also makes the Braum pick very awkward to slam in there as like a true disengage. You can't really play an Enchanter in that spot because then you don't have enough front line. It's hard, right? And again, it really did feel as though, even though we're focusing, you know, on Obstinatus in that particular kind of play, there's not really the onus on him, right? To me, it was more about how, and it was always going to be difficult, Verdant could try and play the mid 2v2 to try and at the very least keep this Galio and Trundle at bay. But they didn't really get off to the races. They didn't really snowball super hard by any means. And yeah, sure, you know, Shiganari got all of the kills that he needed, but those two, right, Velia and Nemesis, were able to either facilitate or make their own plays onto Shiganari off cooldown with a very, very little response.
Yeah, they pinpointed the issue, they knew what to do, and I think it's a summary of the entire series, no? Like, Shiganari picked the hyper carry, they pinpoint the problem, and they were always falling on top of the problem to try and remove him from the equation. LR was just a step ahead of what Verdant could provide. I don't think anyone could save Shiganari from his fate. I think the Aphelios one, yeah, that replay, I think it goes back to the graphic we brought up, Jamana Salari, the death percentage of the team.
Yeah.
He's on the edge. But aside from that, what can you do as an AD carry? You just, well, I guess I'll die. Like, I think that's the meme.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a really difficult question to answer, right? With the ADs that are out, what you had in front of you in terms of composition, it's like you need something to cut through that kind of setup. And I think that, unfortunately, again, that 4-5 out of Los Ratones really just kind of undid a lot of potential good that could have been there from that Verdant composition.
Well, as it stands, we're waiting to see if we can chat with someone from LR as they are able to qualify for Copenhagen. I think it's quite important. Well, their fall versus Nord, everybody was doubting because it was a single loss of all. Like, let's be honest, a single loss. It's nothing to write home about. But it's also a good opportunity for them to have more competitive games. And also, something that I actually want to ask them, is another opportunity to be on stage a little bit longer. You have like Nemesis, Crowny, and Reckless. Stage, they know it by hand. What about Baus and Velia, who was not even present in Nottingham? So they need that stage, you know, practice. So I think this is going to be good for them. And Ruddy have that opportunity to jump on them if they want to go to finals.
I mean, weirdly enough, I would actually say, despite that, remember they had the Red Bull event, right? Like that, it whilst not necessarily the highest level of competitive integrity, is still, you know, stage experience in that kind of environment. You know, crowd shouting, chanting. I actually think, you know, funnily enough, that statement stands probably a lot more for the side of Radisac, right? I think even the Nord players have got some kind of, well, they have land experience from Nottingham. They probably, you know, Jankos has. Well, Jankos. Yeah, him alone really like kind of fills the shoes of that narrative. But yeah, I totally agree. Still, nonetheless, right? It's still very limited for Baus and for Velia. So, you know, getting more time under those conditions is also, I'm sure, if Nottingham was anything to go by, they'll thrive under. And for Velia, of course, you know, first time experience, that kind of setting too.
What do you mean? He was in Nottingham. Didn't you see?
Ah, the cut. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
That was
no. That was him. No,
That was him. It's just different. He just needed some help to walk on stage. That's all.
Yeah, he just
played
needed
it
some
well.
gym time, honestly.
He actually did leg day with Archerum before the.
Yeah, that's how you look after a leg day with
before
Archerum,
that.
just for the reference.
Yeah.
Actually, he joined gym. I think it was like 3 weeks ago. He was talking about it, and the first day was chest day, by the way. So you know he's a gym bro.
Yeah.
Hey, talking about that, he's ready for the interview. Welcome back, Belly. How you doing?
Guys, hope you're doing good. I'm doing
Congratulations,
amazing.
boss.
Thank you, and I just want to say I don't do legs, so yeah, it was different issue back in Nottingham. Okay.
Belly, that's the gym bro. That's the gym bro DNA. Let's talk about this one. Okay, obviously losing versus Nord brought you to the lower bracket, but allowed you to play more games and to look into the few things that you can fix within the team or actually work within the team. What do you think was the biggest thing working to begin with since you went to the lower brackets?
I think we need a wake-up call. We were not getting it, too serious. We were not getting Nord too serious, in my opinion. The preparation wasn't there, and I think it's good that it happened because better early than later. So yeah, I think we're currently locked in, maybe playing the best we've ever played so far in these 5 months, which is really good. That means we keep improving, and yeah, we really wanted to secure the top 3 spot, right? Since we're in lower back, we couldn't really secure just finals. So now we gotta play semis and finals in front of the crowd, and it will be really good experience, and I'm really excited about that.
That's the one I have for you. The next question, going on to stage. Man, that is looking so good, by the way. I love that one, and Casual must be so happy to have that merch right now, right? Because
Lots of
we know.
Exactly.
we know. We don't talk about it. But let's talk about the stage. You have the opportunity to play on Saturday, then on Sunday. How important is this stage practice for you specifically?
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. For stage presence for you, you were not in Nottingham. You were not in Nottingham. So
Yeah.
having 2 days, if you're able to go through semifinals, obviously.
It's for sure different. Let's say that most likely I had that comfort advantage. Yeah, right now this won't be the case because I won't be having any visa issues, luckily. But yeah, it will be for sure different. But it's way better to experience even if you lose or win, you're together as a team. These guys just more became my brothers, like my family, and yeah, I think it will be really good. It's not the first time we already played. At least they played with me, the Paris event when we went to the Paris, the event that we played there. But yeah, first time for NLC, and yeah, I just can't wait. Honestly, I'm really excited right now. I had 2 energy drinks. I don't feel that good right now.
I can see that. Tell me something. Last question for you, boss. Who do you think was the MVP of this series?
Oh my god, I think it's Baus. He reformed. He didn't die
He
a
was
lot.
clean.
He was clean.
Did
But-
you see the Vi items? He had static scale in
He got
Sundered
statics.
Sky.
yeah, he changed, man. Oda changed him. It's crazy.
Hey,
It only took
thanks so much
5
for
months,
this.
just saying.
5 months of intense
5 months, so
training.
it took, yeah.
Valia, thank you so much for the interview. I hope to see you in Copenhagen. What do you have to say to Jamada that skips legs day every day, by the way?
It's bad, just don't do that. People will get you as a meme, they will meme your chicken legs. It happened to me, but I don't care what people think, so it's fine. But if you care what people think, just do legs. If you don't, just be a tread,
Makes sense. Hey, Valia, thank you so much. And I think we both agree that the MVP of today is Kedrol's Barber.
Yeah, we don't talk about it, by the way.
We don't talk about it anymore. Thank you so
It's
much,
not-
Valia. I'll
it's
see you
not that
soon,
good.
boss.
Thank you guys for having me.
I'm sorry, Kedrol.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Hold on. I'm defending my honor. It's a bit weird, but I'm doing it anyway. I've got Thundercast. I've got thunder calves. Don't put no disrespect on me. Don't put no disrespect on me, Archer. We're not gonna do that here today.
We got
That's not happening, bro.
legs on NLC before
That's
GTA
not-
6. I swear.
That's not happening here, bro. We're not gonna play that card. But hey, look.
Yes, a lot of
Lovely
this
to hear from
happens.
Velia. Lovely to hear from Velia, who unfortunately doesn't sneak his way on. Yeah, he doesn't sneak his way onto MVP. It's gonna be Baus, Nemesis, and Reckless. I'm sure I know who's gonna be getting MVP, but sometimes you just have to. You just have to have the vote to have the vote. The formalities are what's necessary here.
Head on to Twitter and vote on who do you think was the MVP of the series. If you don't agree with any of these, you can type in on the post Cadrill's Barber. It's an opportunity I can give you, and maybe it will happen. With that in mind, let's look into the bracket for the final time, where we finally have every piece of the puzzle. LR wins versus Verdant, moves into 31st of May, LR versus the Ruddy Sack. And then on the final, Nord is waiting for their opponent for a rematch. If it's Ruddy Sack, it is Ruddy Sack. If it's versus LR, it's versus LR. But Nord are comfortable because they won versus both of them. Will history repeat itself, or will we have a new champion on the NLC? This is looking good. Any thoughts? Any thoughts?
And prayers for everybody who's going to be playing against these Los Ratones, because they look good, especially to anybody who's going to be top laning versus Los Ratones, which is why I kind of hope that Los Ratones make it to face Nord again, because I need a rematch of Vizichachi versus Baus.
Ooh, I like this. Big leg man, what do you have to say?
I mean, look, I think that again, the onus is always going to be on the team in this league playing Los Ratones. But yeah, Nord, after doing what they did to them in that upper bracket, or in the previous series before the upper bracket final, you know, that narrative might have to take a back seat just for a brief moment. As there you go, there's your graphic. Los Ratones is coming to Copenhagen. It's chaotic now.
Oh, that's clean. Hey, this is outdated.
Almost.
Stop!
No, this is a clean graphic. This is your opportunity to go to Copenhagen, buy your tickets, because Los Ratones will be going in with the Ruddy Sack and Nord. A lot of stars, a lot of legends, a lot of action-packed things that are going to be happening on the stage that I'm not allowed to tell you right now. But I can tell you that Duckling will be working out legs on stage during the event.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. No.